I had my first MMA fight 20 years ago.
Because I was stationed in Hawaii for 5 years.
We would just like pretend like we would war. And so my grandmother just browbeat the piss out of him. Actually had him put in a mental institution.
What? Eternal damnation for everything because people were like trying to marry their goats and weird crazy stuff back in the day.
Crazy. Yeah, you pee the bed.
Hey, good job, son. You
right?
pissed yourself. Miesha Tate. Dude, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. I am so glad that we finally got to do this. I know the last time we came into town, I was able to come on your pod. I was super grateful to be able to meet you for the first time. I need to make sure I give a shout out to Nick Freitas again for linking us up.
The best.
Nick, this is all because of you, and I appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.
I appreciate you, Nick.
He's the best.
Yeah, he's awesome dude. I am super stoked about this. I've been looking forward to this for a while. I'm glad that you had a gap in your schedule to fit me in. I know you got a lot of stuff going on.
We make the gap. We just you make it happen.
We just make it happen. Maybe that's a type A personality thing. I don't know. You're a very big go-getter anyway. Like you get after it.
You know, they say if you want something done, you ask a busy person, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you just make it. You just make it happen. There's a will, there's a way. And definitely, when you were coming to town, I was like, man, we got to sit down and have a good conversation.
Dude, I've been looking forward to it for a while. I definitely have. I know you have accomplished a lot in a relatively short period of time, all things considered. You know what I mean? Like, because how long have you been involved in like the combat sports arena for?
Well, I would say I had my first MMA fight 20 years ago.
20 years ago? Okay, so maybe not that short of a time. 20
years, and I wrestled for a little bit before that. So I guess if you considered wrestling a little bit, then I mean, as a precursor, I wouldn't be here without wrestling. This is a precursor, but I did at that point when I was wrestling, I had no idea that I was going to end up fighting, and then even when I started fighting, I had no idea that it would lead into a career or passion project. I don't know what you would consider it. It's short.
So a profession.
Yeah, and it's kind of springboards you into, the other things in life. Because it's not something you're going to do, until you retire. Well, not by standard measurements.
Age.
Anyways,
because it takes a toll on you,
Yeah.
Where are you from originally? I want to kind of start off in the beginning. There's a lot of people that are going to get to know who you are. I've been wanting to get to know more about your story too, because it's a lot more valuable, I think, for me to like ask you personally than me to just like type it in Google and be like, oh, well,
Absolutely.
this and that, So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Tacoma, Washington.
Washington State. So that's very different from here.
Very different. And that was, by design that I wanted to move here. I was gravitated towards here because I grew up with 9 months of rain for most of my life. I hated
that can be kind of dreary.
Very dreary. I lived on the west side. We call it the wet side of the mountains.
The wet side.
The mountain range right there just gets the moisture from the ocean, and it kind of all just rolls back, or it stays on that side. And then the other half of Washington is actually kind of it's nice over there. It's more we have sand dunes. Washington's such a versatile state.
Really?
Yeah, with sand dunes on the other side of Washington, more desertous. Even occasionally you'll see tumbleweeds. You don't think of Washington that way because we always think of the wet side. SeaTac, Seattle, that kind of area. But I grew up on the west side. I just went, well, yes, I've been 3 times, but we just went for New Year's. I took the kids for the first time.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you been to what they refer to as the windward side of Hawaii?
If I did, I didn't know it.
So like Kaneohe, Kailua. So up by the Marine Corps base, because I was stationed in Hawaii for 5 years, and there's basically, if you look at Oahu on a map, there's this massive mountain range that kind of splits it into like, I would say like 2/3 on one side and 1/3 on the other side. The windward side is separated by this like big mountain range that traps all the clouds over there. And so it's like tropical rainforest. This is the side of the island where they filmed like King Kong and stuff like that.
Okay.
In Jurassic Park. So it's like super lush, really green. And then if you go like western Oahu, southwestern, it looks more like California, like dry.
So we drove around the entire island of Oahu, and I remember passing when we were on the east side, passing where they were like, oh, this is where Jurassic Park. Yeah, and it's way more like the steep, tall, like mountains, and it's all green. It's just amazing and beautiful and gorgeous, but all of it was pretty to me. So yes, I have been.
Okay, yeah, like Kualoa Ranch is where they filmed it.
Yep.
You can actually buy meat from that ranch because they raise cattle there, and you can get like grass-fed like cattle from.
And they're trying to expand, which is really cool because I didn't think the last time I had been to Hawaii, there was almost nothing that was produced in Hawaii. So this is kind of cool. This must be more, of a bit of a newer trend, or at least this decade, where they're trying to move in this direction and expand. So I'm all in support of that.
Yeah, me too. I think I think that like it's obviously hard because they're so limited on space as far as like what they can do for like producing any type of agriculture or, even just like raising livestock of any kind, because it takes a lot of space to do that kind of stuff. If you want to do it like the right way, like if it's a sustainable way. But I think they're probably doing it right. I know some folks, we bought some steaks from them because they got a little store there. You can go buy like grass-fed beef and stuff like that, different cuts. And we grill them on the grill, like in Kaneohe and Kailua. They got a couple of farmers markets that come to the Whole Foods that's in Kailua that sell like locally grown produce from all over the island. People will like come up to Kailua, and Kaneohe did the same thing. Like they have a big mall called the Windward Mall because it's on the windward side of the island. And if you go on there on certain days, they got a farmer's market where there's like stands and kiosks set up all throughout the entire mall outside of all the shops where they're just like people selling produce inside of the mall.
One of my favorite things on this earth is a farmer's market.
Yeah.
I love going to farmer's markets. It's like my passion hobby. Like if I'm out and about and I see a farmer's market, like I've got to stop and buy some organic bread and support the local small businesses and buy my berries and eggs. Well, I have chickens now, so I don't buy eggs very much. But
you get chickens?
I got chickens. Yeah.
Moving on up. I need to get some chickens, man.
Well, we had some, die, of course. We've had chickens for a few years. So we just had one recently, this past year, get picked off by a friend's dog, unfortunately. It was staying at our house, and the dog was would go outside every day and like dig a little bit under the cage, but we couldn't see it because I had like my garden beds, like raised garden beds, so like when the dog would go under, and the dog never made it under, but he made a big enough hole that one of the chickens got out.
Okay.
And so she was gone. So we were down to 2 chickens, which really isn't enough to sustain a family of 4. So we just adopted a chicken from the Las Vegas animal shelter.
Adopted one?
We adopted a chicken. I didn't really know how
Did that cost money?
No, she was free actually, but I donated.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
but I think when these animal shelters have chickens, I just don't think people are, it's probably less expensive for them to just give them away.
Yeah.
And ask for a donation than it is to keep them and feed them. And
yeah, probably.
It was funny. They had her listed as a rooster, and they only had a picture of her head. And I'm like, okay, well, I've had chickens growing up and stuff. I was like, okay, but I don't consider myself a chicken expert, but I was looking at her. I was like, that head doesn't look like a rooster.
Yeah.
I was like, call me wrong, but she doesn't have like the big wattle and like the I forget what you call the top here, but the comb.
The little floppy thing on the top.
But I was like, why didn't they take a picture of the whole body? Because you could definitely tell by the tail and the talons, but they're just, I think I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they are just overworked.
Yeah, maybe.
Just got a little bit too much going on there because
overworked and understaffed.
Yeah, something like that. Because I was like, if you list a hen as a rooster, the chances of that getting adopted is like very low. So I had to adopt her sight unseen because they were like, no, we can't take you to see her or anything. And so I was like, well,
we can't take you to see her?
Yeah, like either you just basically have, because it's like in some farm area in the back of like the animal shelter. Okay. And so they were like, we don't have the staff basically to escort you back there. So either you take him, or you don't. And I was like, looking at this picture, I'm like, well, I don't know what this chicken's been through. Maybe it's a really terrible looking rooster there, but I don't think it is. And then she came out and I was like, you don't have talons or a long tail. This is a hen. And so she's laying eggs now. Long story short.
Okay, so she is laying eggs. So they just had her listed as a rooster, but it was a hen the whole time.
Yes, which was really sad because nobody wants roosters. There's like,
No, they
make
want
dog
eggs.
food out of roosters. They don't, nobody wants more roosters.
That's funny. So now you got 3.
So she wouldn't have gotten adopted, I don't think.
No, probably not. Because like you said, nobody really needs a rooster unless you're trying to like run an underground
you need like
fighting
one
ring.
rooster for like 10 hens, if you want babies, which I, at this point, don't.
Oh, 1 rooster for 10 hens.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you're just like trying to get eggs, like
just eggs, then you don't even want a rooster because you want the girls to keep laying eggs.
Yeah, and you just want to eat the eggs. You don't want chickens. You don't want chicks.
That's where we're at. So.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think that's definitely a goal of mine is to get like a good chicken coop set up and everything like that when I transition to like a more semi-permanent living situation. How much do you think it costs like initially to get everything set up for sustainability with chickens? Like,
I don't think, I feel like chickens are so easy and low hanging. I mean, all you need is like an enclosed area, which I would recommend even like something over the top, but you can get like just chicken wire or, that's what we have across the top. And we have it up against a like brick fence that we have or wall. So it's just, like basically a dog kennel run. Like we kind of have like a fence, and then we have like over the top the chicken wire.
Yeah.
And then you just want like a laying box and hay. And that's really it. So I don't know, a few $100.
Yeah.
$500 maybe, but like it's not too bad. And I'm sure if you got creative, you could probably make it less expensive, or if you have building skills or anything like that. But if you look on Facebook Marketplace, you can probably get, we have 2 hutches in there. One is a chicken hutch, and the other one is a rabbit hutch that was given to us by some neighbors. And they're like, would you use this?
What do you mean by hutch?
It's like this little wooden house looking thing.
Like a coop?
Yeah, a coop. Yeah, a coop, but they don't stay inside of it. They just like to go lay in it. So it's like laying boxes. So the one that's actually designed for the chickens to lay in the laying boxes, once the rabbit hutch showed up, they abandoned the other one. And so they like the rabbit hutch. That's where they go and lay their eggs. And they sleep on top of the chicken coop.
On the outside?
Yeah, on the outside. They just sleep on top of it.
How cold does it get here?
We might touch freezing.
Okay, but they're usually okay even when it's that cold?
Oh, yeah. They're made out of down, That's like when I think about it, like, we make down blankets, right? So it's like very warm.
Good point.
What they really suffer is in the heat. That's actually the worst part. The winter is like nothing for them here. They slow down and they're laying a little bit when it's getting that cold at night.
Yeah.
But no, my girls are still laying even right now. They'll slow down a tiny bit. But in the summer, my girls
are still making
chicks,
lots of
my
eggs
babes.
for me.
Oh yeah, no, they're good to me. But the summer is what's really rough, and that's rough on me too, because I'm out there like spraying their coop down like 3 times a day, putting ice out in their water, throwing like frozen corn and raspberries, and just trying to keep them cool.
Yeah.
Because it's just horrible.
Frozen berries and stuff?
Yeah, frozen corn, frozen rice, that kind of stuff. I'll just put it out.
Frozen rice?
Yeah.
Do they like to eat frozen rice?
When it's hot out.
Yeah.
Well, they love
rice. Do you ever
rice,
feed them berries or anything like that?
Yeah. They like berries, blueberries, strawberry tops, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I'll at least refrigerate it, if not freeze it before I put it out there. I mean, when it's 110, it doesn't take very long for it to
heat up. Yeah.
To warm up anyways.
Yeah. You can start cooking eggs on the pavement out here at that temperature.
And that's being modest with our temperature. I mean, when we hit 117, sometimes 120.
117, 120. That's like a blow dryer. That's like standing inside of a blow dryer. It's horrible.
And so at that point, if we really start getting over like 115 consistently, sometimes I'll bring my chickens inside and put them in the shower.
Yeah, in the shower?
Well, I don't literally
turn the shower on?
No, I don't turn the shower on, but I just put them in the stall because I'm like, I can clean that easily. But I just feel so bad for them. I have dunked them in the pool before. That I do sometimes. Yeah.
In-ground pool?
What was that?
Is it like an in-ground pool?
Yeah, in-ground pool.
Okay.
I'll just dunk them in the pool.
I should imagine.
Or big buckets or whatever, and I'll just submerge them until they get really, but then again, it's like a blow dryer. It's like 15 minutes later, they're panting. And so I'm like,
You can tell that they're hot, like when they're like actually panting and stuff.
Yeah, and so my chickens would not go into a kiddie pool. I was like, I'm going to get this kiddie pool, and they're going to, they were scared to jump over the edge of it, which I guess in theory, if you are a chicken and you can't swim and you don't know how deep something is, you just know it's full of water.
Yeah.
I guess you don't go in it. But what I found is that I took a garbage can lid and kind of just dug out a hole in the ground and like set it ground level. So it was like, into the ground, and I would fill that up. And that was enough. They would walk in that, and they really enjoyed that. So I guess one of the best ways to keep chickens cool is keeping their feet cool.
Yeah, because maybe like you said, maybe if they can't see over the side, they're like, I don't want to go in there. I don't know what's in there.
They won't do it.
Yeah, but like
mine wouldn't anyways.
You could probably find like something even bigger than a garbage lid. That was a good idea though. Like just getting anything at all.
Yeah, well, I only had 2 girls, so it was okay for them.
Yeah,
they would do it okay.
Yeah, it's like a bird bath. Like a little bird bath that's in the ground.
They would literally just walk around in there. I've heard of people like freezing big like bricks or big cinder blocks or bricks and like putting them in the ground too, and it kind of like insulates the cold, and the chickens will stand on it or whatever. But
no kidding.
I haven't gone that far. I've done a lot of other things though to keep them cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is one aspect of your whole life, and there's like a lot of stuff that you've got going on outside of just your chickens. But it's still, I think it's, I definitely want chickens. I like the idea of being sustainable or having like any level of sustainability and like knowing where my food's coming from. I think that's super big, especially if you're interested in any type of like level of health and wellness, which obviously like that's been a pretty big part of your life for a long period of time, because you have to be hyper vigilant of what you're consuming if you're in a combat sport or a combat profession the way that you've been. So I kind of want to backtrack a little bit. So you grew up in Tacoma, Washington. It's very rainy there. Mm-hmm. It was like the wet part of the state. You went through like elementary school, middle school, high school there, like all the way through everything.
Yeah.
What was your experience growing up, like as a elementary school, middle school, high school? Like what was life like back then? What did you do? Did you do wrestling at that point too?
I started wrestling when I was in high school. I would describe my childhood as very free, and I was quite a tomboy.
Were you?
My parents were, I was an 80s kid, so there was a lot more freedom to do things at that time. I think parents just worried less.
Yeah.
But I grew up on 4.9 acres, so I had some area. I had some space to run for sure. So usually, the kids were over at my house, and we were playing, and it was before phones and iPads and all the things that would keep us indoors. So we were like, basically, it was like, don't come inside until the sun comes down.
Nice.
That's
a good way to.
It's a great way to grow up.
The kids out when you're kids.
It's a great way to grow up. So it was like, don't come inside till the sun comes down. And so we would play outside, and we'd grab sticks, and I still remember this game we used to play. So our house, we have like a 2-story house, and then we had we called it the cottage, like a little mother-in-law quarters. Yeah. And at one point, some friends of mine, their parents and my parents were friends, and they moved in there, and they had 3 boys, and I was best friends with one of the twins, Matthew. Anyways, and the older brother too was cool. And like we would go outside, all 3 of us, and we would play this game called Guns. And we would get sticks that looked, you could hold with like a handle or whatnot, and we would just like pretend like we would war. We would like
with sticks?
We would war with sticks, and we would get into the biggest arguments about whether we hit the other person or we didn't, because there was no way to, they were sticks.
Right,
and
there's no way to like verify,
Yeah, there's no way to verify. And so we would, I saw your shoulder behind the tree, and I got you. Like, you're dead.
That's so funny, dude.
It's so good.
Kids do the funniest things like that when they're playing like war. It's like you're playing laser tag, but there's no lasers. So like, how are you going to figure it out?
So we had these big trees that in our woods had fallen over, and the roots kind of like took a big chunk of the ground out with them. So there was like this, big, what do you call it, like opening on the ground there, and we would like build huts out of them. We would take sticks and we would lay out across, and we would take ferns and we'd weave it through, and we'd make doors, and we each had like a few of these little areas, and like we had trails running through our woods. Like, that's cool. We had we had so much fun as kids. I climbed every single tree in my yard and more. I actually got the cops called on me I like to climb things, for climbing on top of my elementary school. When I was in elementary, I just wanted to know what was up there.
You were an elementary school kid? You're like, I just want to figure out what the hell's up on this roof.
Yeah, I just want to know what's up there. I was about like a block away from my elementary school, so I always would like walk to elementary school. But I remember one time my parents had one of the trees that was against the roadside of our property, which was looking towards the school. There was some distance between that, but anyways, and they had the tree topped, so it was flat on the top. And so I remember one day I climbed up there and I was standing on the top of this tree. It was just like still pretty high, but I could see all the way to my grade school, and I was like, look on top of it. I was like, I want to go up there. I want to go climb that. So I went, and then,
I could see the top of my school. I want to go up there now.
I want to climb up there, yeah. So I think I climbed the gutters or something like that, but I made it up there.
Yeah, and the cops got called on you?
Yeah.
What did they tell you when they got you?
Dude, I bailed before, because like whoever called, I think like yelled at us, like, we just called the cops or whatever, and so.
Oh wow.
I think they were up there, like, but I ran. I was scared. I didn't know.
You're like, they're not getting me, man.
Yeah,
I'm getting the hell out of here.
4th or 5th grade, I was like, I'm out.
That's funny. So you did a lot of outdoor stuff. Did you ever build any tree houses or anything like that?
Yeah, my dad did when I was a little bit older. We had a tree house, but just those ones that were in the ground that had that big like scoop out of dirt because the roots had pulled it up. We built those, and that was, they were on the ground, but they were pretty legit.
Pretty elaborate.
They were pretty cool.
Yeah. Did you ever like get them set up where you could like build a fire in them or something like that?
No, we didn't go that far. We had no adult supervision, so luckily we didn't burn our forest down doing that. But we had a lot of fun. Who knows if you could have even got any dry wood in Washington?
Yeah, I guess
everything was wet.
It's so wet. Yeah, that's still cool that you had like a lot of good landscape and like outdoor environment to play in. I think that's super valuable for kids, especially growing up as a young child when you still got a pretty impressionable mind. I think cities is like, because people become socialized as they grow up in whatever area they grow up in. I think it's healthier for people to grow up in the country and like play outside, because I think that's what humans were supposed to do. Like, we weren't supposed to live in a concrete jungle where there's too many people And it's like nobody knows anybody, nobody talks to anybody, everybody's really busy and they're running from one place to another and they're trying to get the next gig or they're trying to get their next business deal.
Stressed,
stressed as hell. Like people like get really desensitized to violence in cities because it happens all the time, whereas country you don't see that stuff as much. And people tend to be a little bit closer to each other when they're living in proximity. Like neighbors tend to get to know each other a little bit. Maybe like there's a little bit more of a community in the country. It's just, I think, healthier overall for young minds to grow up in situations like that. I don't know.
You know, people use the term like, oh, you know, I just need to disconnect for a bit. And I look at it completely the other way around. I look at the people who are busy, running, on the go. Myself, I'm definitely in that mix at times in my life as we are disconnected then.
Yeah.
That's when we're the most disconnected, you know, and like you meant the concrete jungle, like we're disconnected at those moments. So when we go out with nature, we're actually connecting.
Yeah.
That's when I feel like that's when we're actually plugged in.
I like that.
The rest of the time, we're just, you know, burning resources we may or may not have, but we connect when you go back in nature. And I wouldn't trade my childhood for anything because I had a very, very connected childhood. But when I was real young, I also had the perspective of being very poor. Like my family was a struggling blue collar family for most of my life until I would say maybe like late middle school, high school, we started to turn it around. But when I was a little kid, my mom was a single mom. And she met my dad who raised me when I was like 2.5. So I don't think I met him till I was like 3.
So she had you before she met him?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and did you ever meet the guy before, like the previous father?
My biological father?
Yeah, biological?
Yes.
You met him?
So I met him when I was like, I think he wrote a Christmas card to me when I was 5.
Interesting.
And he sent a picture of himself. I won't forget it. It was a black and white photo and he was a musician.
Oh, wow.
So it was like him in like black spandex with like a leather jacket and I think no shirt on, like kind of like longer hair.
Like an 80s hairband guy?
Totally. Yes.
That's wild.
80s hairband guy. And I was like, that's my dad.
that's
like,
unexpected.
What?
Yeah.
But props to my mom because, you know, she fell in love and he was busy doing his, you know, rock star life and kind of just, you know, well, but there's her story and there's his story. But anyways, you know, he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, you know, my mom had very heavily considered abortion because she was 21 and she just came from, her dad passed away when she was 16, but was a veteran. Wow. He was a veteran and had a very tumultuous relationship with my grandmother. My grandmother was, according to my mom, my mother's father his name is Quentin, was one of the most peaceful, kind, gentle, loving people she'd ever met in her life.
So this is your mother's grandfather?
Yes. And my mother's father. So my grandfather.
Your grandfather. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Quentin, my mother's father, was just an amazing, kind, gentle soul, a man from Oklahoma. And he married this spicy, somewhat, we can use a loose term, you know, wild, a little bit crazy, a little bit of a man-hating woman.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And so my grandmother just browbeat the piss out of him and actually had him put in a mental institution. And so my mom didn't get very much time with her dad, but when she did, she was like, I just clung to him because he was always so kind and he just slowed everything down for her and he just would talk to her and give her like those amazing, you know, father to daughter moments and just help her have perspective on life. And, you know, she desperately wanted more. And then he passed away from a heart attack at 16, when she was 16. And so she was just my mom was raised a very broken person. My grandmother had random people around, you know, renters. She was into real estate, and some of those situations were quite toxic for my mom, and I think for her older sister.
Where was your grandmother from?
Switzerland.
She was from Switzerland.
She was 3 years old when she came here, and she was the oldest of 8 kids.
Oh, wow.
The story has it that she had caught something that had, as a young age, I don't know whether she caught something that made her development not work right, but like one leg was like crippled, or if she had like hurt herself, like she'd fallen off something. I don't know what the clear story is on that, but either way, she had a brace on one leg and one leg didn't really work, or she was kind of a little bit disabled. The story on that, interestingly enough, is she got wooed by a little Italian boy And back in Switzerland at that time, that was not okay. It was very taboo. Like
really?
A higher class Swiss girl falling in love with, a dirty little Italian boy.
Dirty little
was not,
Italian
I mean, that's
boy.
how the family says it, I'm a proud Italian. I'm proud that I have Italian. But at that time was like, they just were like, this is not like, we don't mix our, they're this and we're that.
Isn't it funny? They had like derogatory terms for
totally.
Italians.
These are the things that I had, like here, my great uncles and aunts, like saying how their parents talked, and their parents beyond that. But anyways, so at that time, it was just very frowned upon. So
was your grandfather Italian?
My great grandfather was Italian.
Okay.
So my grandmother's mother was Swiss.
Yeah.
And her father was Italian.
Okay. Your grandmother's mother was Swiss.
Yes.
And her husband
was
an Italian guy.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I'm following.
Okay. So
connecting the dots.
My great grandmother's family didn't want her associating with this, as the story goes, this little Italian boy.
Yeah.
And so they said, the father was like, look, I'm going to give you this amount of money and I want you to go to America. You say you want to go to America and start a future for my daughter and whatnot, like take this and get lost. And he basically thought, this kid's not going to, he's going to take this money, he's going to be gone. He'll find someone over there. He'll never come back and we'll be rid of this situation.
Yeah.
Well, I think my great grandmother was already pregnant with my grandmother.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So he leaves. I don't know if he knew she was pregnant. I have no idea. And maybe that was the motive to get the guy out of there. So like they could just like pretend like this never happened. I don't know what they were going to do.
Yeah.
But anyways, he goes and he buys land in Washington and he starts a farm and he makes a home and he comes back for her 3 years later. My grandma's 3 years old. And says, I'm coming back. I've got it set up. I want to bring my wife with me. And so he took her to America. And so
that's
my grandma
crazy.
was 3.
To Tacoma. Or to
yeah, basically. Like Midland
Washington.
area. Mm-hmm.
What year was that when he got there?
Well, let's see. It would have had to be like 20s, 30s.
20s or 30s?
Yeah.
That's so wild because that's a very, like, shortly after World War I. The stories from back then are so complicated because it's like you're like 3-4 human beings generations removed from it,
Yeah.
So it's like tough. It's like almost like this fantasy land of things that people are painting these pictures for you to tell you about it, but you're not really sure. Like, and I've got a lot of those stories too because like apparently my grandfather was like Czechoslovakian and he married into a German family on my mother's side.
Okay.
And like they were like wealthy German aristocratic family in like the 40s and stuff like that in the 30s. And then they fled Germany after during World War II when the Russians started coming in after Germany had attacked Russia and like you had the siege of Stalingrad or Leningrad. And then the Russians were coming in and taking everything and committing horrible war crimes the whole way across as they were coming in. So my grandmother's family heard all the stories about what the Russians were doing. So they're like, we need to leave. And so they buried all their china and their expensive silver out in the yard. And they bounced to America, or some of them bounced to America, some bounced other places. And apparently that where their house used to be got paved over and turned into an airstrip. Like there's all kinds of crazy stories like that from that time. It's like, I don't know what's true, what's not true. I also heard that my great grandmother on my dad's side was a flapper in the Roaring 20s.
Wow.
And like doing all kinds of that kind of crazy stuff. Like, because like some of that family came over in the 1800s after the potato famine to come into the United States, like because it was like crazy over there. And some of them came during the 1600s. So it's like really crazy stories. But I could trace it with the way you're explaining it. It's like, okay, so your great grandmother got with a Italian guy. Family didn't like it. They tried to pay him off. He came to Washington, bought land, came back when your grandmother was 3 years old, and was like, all right, I'm ready to move with my family to America. And did she just like left with him?
Yeah.
And then they just settled down in Washington.
Yeah, and my grandma didn't speak any English when she first went to school, and she went to a Catholic school, and the nuns were horribly mean.
Catholic school. Mm-hmm. Oh, man, Catholic school ruins religion for so many people.
So much so. The rulers and the smacking your fingers and all these things. My grandma's passed away since, but I used to remember quite a few of her stories.
She used to tell those stories too?
Oh, yeah. She was like, the nuns were real mean, really mean, because she didn't speak English, and they were just terrible. They were mean.
That's like the opposite of what you would expect from people that are supposed to be like godly.
Religion gets misconstrued for power all the time.
Yeah.
You know, religion is a place it's not supposed to be, but when it's taken out of context, is a place for superiority, a place for saying I'm above someone else, a way to classify yourself as better, and to sometimes utilize that. I mean, look what they did to the Native Americans, you know, when they came over and tried to, you know, the religious part of that was not good. It was terrible.
Yeah, the
and
forcing stuff.
Yeah, just forcing them to try to conform. And not just the religious part, obviously. There's lots of angles to that and lots of layers.
Yeah, I mean, it happens with other religions too. I mean, you look at like the things that were happening in the Middle Ages. Christianity was on the Crusades. You know, you had the Muslims that were doing like the Muslim horde stuff. There was a bunch of like, you know, horrible atrocities committed in the name of religion and all this other stuff. There's a lot of reformations that take place in between there, but like there's been a lot of, I guess in my head, I think, okay, well, you know, Christians and Christianity are supposed to be preaching like, be a good person, treat people kindly, like be good to one another. And then it's like, you know, we're also...
And then there's evil that hides right behind all of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that too. There's a lot of like people like hiding, you know, the fact that there is abuse being taken place, and then they're just like, let's just move this person to a different place where they didn't get in trouble for doing that, and all kinds of weird, convoluted stuff. But
Scientology, that's another crazy one.
Oh, bro, yeah.
You're not even allowed to report on any... They think that children are the same age as like everyone. You know, like that's what Scientology.
Oh,
yeah, they don't think that children, they don't distinguish them as like younger. So they have like responsibilities and like, but why? That's weird to me. Like, because there's some underlying thing. Like, what do you mean children are not children? Like, what are you saying like, now? Like, what?
What are we getting at here?
Yeah,
we talking about
me out a little bit.
You're trying to commit crimes and not get in trouble for it? Is that what you're saying?
You know, it scares me just because, you know, religion has a history of that kind of thing. And I am I'm a God-believing woman.
Sure.
But I'm very leery of like religion and what that can be. And, you know, I also see terrible things happening, you know, in like the Muslims cultures right now. I'm not saying that there's not such a thing as like peaceful Muslims, but I feel like it may be not because of the religion, but because they're good people. Yeah. Like there's good people in all walks of life. Yep. But what I have read of the Quran and stuff, there's some pretty terrible things in there. Yeah. And I'm like, ooh, we gotta be really careful. Happening. I was like, what do you mean it's okay to hit a woman or hit your wife? Like, I don't believe that. Just as a person, morally, I just don't believe that. And if Christian religion said that, I wouldn't believe it. And if a Catholic religion said that, I don't support it. But the Quran is like a rule book. Yeah. It's like, this is what you're supposed to do. And the Bible, where people go, well, in the Bible, there's terrible things too. I'm like, yeah, and a lot of times it doesn't work out very well for those people. These are stories. Yeah. They're not like literally like, you have to interpret it. And the thing that's frustrating about the Bible is it's very cryptic a lot of times. So there's a lot of ways to interpret what it says. But if you definitely if you take like one piece out without the context of the whole thing, a lot of parts of the Bible look really bad. But a lot of them are telling stories that were examples of bad stuff. Like, don't do that.
Yeah. The Old Testament specifically has a lot of crazy off the wall stuff in there. Because it's like, you have to think about like human beings wrote this in a book and then they rewrote it and passed it down generation. They probably had to like teach people to not be barbarians. And so they were like threatening them with like eternal damnation for everything, because they were like, people were like trying to marry their goats and weird crazy stuff back in the day.
Crazy. And they like to use a lot of imagery, I feel like, in the old world too, or like a lot of like analogies and things like that to paint pictures, you know, of like what they were actually saying. Do we actually think that Jonah lived in the belly of a whale, or was that more metaphorical to something like, or what are we drawing this towards, you know? So anyways, the Bible, it's a lot to decipher, but it's not exactly it's not a rule book. It is like lessons to be learned from in a lot of parts of the Bible anyways. So
from what I've seen, because I have a lot of friends who are Arab, I have a lot of friends who are Muslim, I have a lot of friends who are Christian, I have a lot of friends who are Buddhists. I got friends of like every religion, and the one thing I've found that is like the common denominator is that like people that are fundamentalists typically tend to be like a little bit more extreme. Whereas people that like loosely interpret stuff and they just like they practice whatever religion they want to practice, but they're not practicing it from a fundamentalist standpoint, typically tend to be a little bit more even keeled across the entire planet. Because like you said, there's good people and bad people from every walks of life.
Yeah.
And that's,
No,
that's
some
always,
of my favorite people are Muslim.
yeah, and I
like
try
they're
to.
literally
Well, there's
so
a lot.
kind
There's a
and
lot of
nice.
Muslim UFC fighters.
Yeah.
Like Khabib, a bunch of very like unbelievably savage fighters in the UFC are Muslim guys from some very savage parts of the world. What's the name of the country a lot of those guys are coming from? What's it called?
Russia?
Not Russia, but like that province that's over there in Eastern Europe. I can't remember. Dagestan.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of savage dudes coming over from Dagestan that
Yeah.
fight, and they're like grown up in rough areas too.
And you know what? I praise their work ethic and their success and everything that they've done.
Yeah.
But I will say it is quite a culture shock when like the female trainers, they can't be trained by them or they won't be trained by them. They won't take pictures with females.
No kidding.
No, yeah. Like
Wow.
they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Especially I think if they're not like completely covered.
Oh, okay.
One of my female trainers is like, yeah, some of them won't let me train them and some of them will, but like I can't touch them. And she's
wow.
she's like totally just like, and that's so, she's a super non-judgmental person. She's super, super sweet. But I find it's just a little bit of like, makes my ears perk a little bit like, what? What do you mean?
Yeah.
Because I just get a little concerned, not because I think I'm going to say that those people are bad people,
Yeah.
but sometimes certain things or certain ideologies, because of history and because of what we've seen, again, through Catholics, through Christians, through Muslims, through like many different things. Sometimes it just makes me go, okay, well, I'm just going to note that to be aware.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to pay attention to like the temperature of the world and like what's happening, and like so that I can just kind of just make sure like this stuff doesn't get out of hand, because I don't ever want to not have my choice and freedom or voice as a woman.
Yeah.
And that's all, that I'll say. I don't want my daughter wearing a burqa.
Yeah,
someday.
no, I
I
completely
don't want,
understand that. Well, at the end of the day, like a lot of that stuff is, like I said, a lot of that stuff is a little bit more hardline conservative versions of that, because I know a lot of like
Totally.
folks that do the fasting, they worship on the specific holidays, but they are not about like the fully covering up stuff. But I think
but they're also
it's
not
dangerous.
the aggressive people. Like they're just happy to live their life just like the rest of us. Like there's just like some that are very aggressive.
Yeah. And then like I said, you can find that with all different religions. I think at the end of the day, in my personal opinion, if your religion is dictating most of the majority of how you conduct yourself as a human being, you got to be careful with that stuff. That's all.
What do you think about like what's going on in Iran?
Oh, bro, I hope that
they're liberated.
I want them to be free.
Me too.
I want them to have freedom, because like, dude, honestly, like the stuff that's going on in Iran and the stuff that's going on in Syria, the Syria stuff is not getting hardly any coverage from mainstream media because they're all focused on what's going on in Iran. The Iran thing is important. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's very important. They have been oppressed for more than 30 years, almost 40 years at this point, like 39 years or more. Jesus, no, it's actually more than that.
Yeah,
it's like closer to 40.
40.
Yeah. So, because 79.
But those people that are getting to the age where they're like starting, that they're probably the ones that are just like sick of it, because they probably remember, and they're the last. It's like a do or die thing right now, I think, when it comes to like those people who remember life before it was taken over. And once all those people have passed, then I think you kind of get to a point where like the newer generations don't know.
Yeah.
Like
they don't know what it was like before the regime was in charge,
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, I also still believe in Gen Z, because like you look at Nepal just overthrew their entire government using communications through Discord and things like that. And then they installed their own government. Like like Gen Z did that. Obviously, cool. Nepal is very different than Iran, because Iran's like actively murdering their own population, and also Iran's the biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the entire Middle East. And so what they've probably been doing is, and what I've been hearing and seeing reports of, is that they've been pulling back a lot of their state-sponsored terror proxies from Iraq, from Syria, from everywhere else in the Middle East. And they've been pulling them back to their country to have them conduct violence on their own people, because obviously it's in the government's best interest to silence people that are dissidents, that are against the regime. one of the reasons why they shut the internet off on the 8th of January for what was probably a week or more than a week of internet connectivity being next to nothing on there. I don't know if it's still completely shut off across the country, but they were definitely shutting the internet off so that people couldn't leak out horrible stuff that's happening. Yeah, because there would be international outrage if people in 2026 were being killed in their streets for protesting their government like that. You would hope so, yeah. But at the end of the day, like, I think people have become so desensitized to just governments massacring large populations of people, and that's a problem because it's getting fed to us so much in the algorithm. You get very desensitized to it, and I don't think that's a good thing. I think that's a very bad thing because then people are more likely to be prone to violence or be open to violence, where we should always want a peaceful resolution to stuff. And honestly, like, I really do hope that the Iranian people can obtain some sort of level of freedom again, but I just don't see that happening from the inside, just because it's hard for them to coordinate when they don't have internet. It's hard for them to rise up against a nation that's shooting them as they're protesting. Like, what do you do against that? There's a lot of reports saying there's like 20,000 plus people that have been gunned down by their own government over there just in the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's sad. That's tough. And then you see what's going on in Syria.
I haven't, because like you mentioned, it's not as...
Nobody knows what's going on with that. But I never deployed to Afghanistan or Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom when there was active combat going on there. But I did get an opportunity to go to Syria in 2023. I didn't experience combat there, but I did experience a little bit about what's going on, what's been going on leading up to that point in the enduring defeat of ISIS, and kind of the purpose behind why we were there and what we were helping support. And at the time, the Assad regime was still in power when I was there in the country, in Damascus and everything like that. And then you had the Syrian Democratic Forces, which were primarily comprised of Kurdish folks up in the northeast of the country. Turkey was also in the country, involved in a certain area. The Russians were involved in a certain area. There was tons of Iranian proxy organizations all over the country. Most complicated area I've ever been in by far. Too many people operating, too much stuff going on. The new government, the interim government, has pushed all the way east of the Euphrates River and taken all of this territory that used to belong to the Kurds, that the Kurds were kind of in control of. And they're going through releasing all the prisoners in a lot of these detention facilities that house ISIS members, a lot of them. Now, does that mean that everyone in the detention facility is an ISIS member? No, maybe not. There might be people that were wrongfully detained. I don't know. I've never seen the rosters or walk through the prisons, right? It's a big mixture, but they're going through. There is one thing that is a fact, and there's a lot of ISIS members and ISIS affiliated people that are in a lot of these detention facilities. I think we're getting ready to see in the news a humanitarian crisis, the likes of which we haven't seen in a very long time, coming out of Syria, especially because they've got refugee camps that are all over the place and these detention facilities that are all over the place, that the Syrian Democratic Forces have, for the past 10, 12, 15 years been the staff, the protectors of the security to keep this stuff contained. But nobody really knew what to do about it because these refugee camps that have just blown up, that are filled with not only ISIS fighters, but generations of their children, women that came over there from all over the world that decided to join ISIS and be baby factories for them, which that's a real thing. And some of them ended up having 6, 7, 8, 9 children apiece. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of these people. One example is this displaced persons camp called Al Hol, which is probably one of the most dangerous places you can be on planet Earth, because there's the children there are being bartered with to commit murder and crazy stuff like that. It's bad. And once that IDP camp lets loose and opens up and they're just free to leave, they're going to be going all over the place. And some of this stuff is going to end up spilling into Iraq, and that's going to be a whole other problem because we just vacated Al-Assad Air Base and turned that over to the Iraqis. And I think we have a very small footprint in Iraq now. It's going to be on them to defend their borders and protect, their borders from a new resurgence of ISIS, which there's some significant concerns about that. But that's a whole other thing. It's another can of worms. You could do an entire 3-hour podcast about just that. It's so complicated, and honestly, it fills me with sadness seeing the Kurds lose all this territory that they fought and shed so much blood to take in the first place from ISIS. ISIS committed horrible atrocities to the Kurds in the northeast of Syria and in Iraq as well. And I hope that there's a method to the madness, because right now it just seems like complete chaos, and it seems like, ISIS is going to make a resurgence, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong.
I hope you're wrong, but it's better to be aware.
Yeah, and a lot of people are not aware of what's going on in Syria because it's like this forgotten conflict. I mean, there was you had the civil war going on there between, the Assad regime and the Kurds, plus ISIS was all over the place, and all these terrorist proxy groups that Iran had operating there, and then Russia was operating there, and the Turks came in because Turkey views the SDF as if they're all terrorists. It's the most complicated. Dude, it's the most complicated area ever. But the bottom line that I can say that's definitive is all of the Kurds that I met just want to have a safe, peaceful life for their families. They want their families to have a safe place to grow up and have kids and have food.
Human things, right?
Human things. And we forget that stuff because people are so set on taking sides or choosing which faction you want to be a part of. But again, you could have a 4-hour podcast, 5-hour podcast. You could probably do a podcast all day about just the history of Syria.
Just be scratching the surface.
It'd still just be scratching the surface because it's so complicated. But anyway, it's easy to go off on tangents with this stuff, but I want to kind of reel us back in a little bit and go back to high school.
We kicked this all off with my grandma getting smacked by by Catholic nuns.
Yes,
rulers.
Yes.
That's how we started. Okay.
That opened the can of worms.
Yeah, that opened the gate. Yeah. Okay, that's where we were. But we're going back to high school now.
Yeah, let's go back to high school. Okay. So we talked about grandma. We talked about your grandma or your great grandma settled with your grandma when she was 3 years old in Washington.
Let me tell you this. So This is kind of how it all got started. So my mom was kind of a broken person. Let's just say that. My grandmother wasn't the most stable person. I don't know what happened in her upbringing. Yeah. I don't know. But I think trauma was pretty heavy in that. I think just the times. I think for my grandma's generation and women. So my grandmother had an illegitimate child who she was forced by the church to give up for adoption.
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm. So she was young, 16 maybe.
Your grandma?
My grandmother, the one that came over when she was 3 years old.
Wow.
So she had to give up that baby. His name was Philip. And they reconnected later in life. And ironically, were so similar that they had a big falling out anyways. So it didn't end up working. I mean, he was in his 40s or something. But
really?
Two peas in a pod, and they didn't end up getting along well. But yeah, but interesting enough. So my mom was raised almost fatherless, very few times. She said she probably had a handful of hours that she actually really got to spend with her father.
Damn.
And she loved him, and he was the peace for her, and she wished that she could always spend more time, but he just wasn't ever
because your grandmother kept having him put into a psych ward and stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, I guess she was claiming things, and I guess they, at that time, I don't know, he was medicated and he was in a, mental institution for, he was post-military. So I think it was I don't know. It was something along those lines.
Very complicated.
Yeah. But my mother never believed any of it. She said he was just she was always yelling at him. He was always stressed, around her, but he was always just so gentle and so kind and so sweet. When my mother got pregnant with me, she just didn't think she could be a mother. She wanted to, but she was like, I don't think I can do this. I can't be responsible for a child. I'm just still I don't have anything. The father's not here. I can't do this. I don't have a supportive mother. I'm just all on my own. And this probably would be better if this didn't happen. And then it was actually a nun from our church, St. Rosary. It's in Tacoma on the hill. Actually, I think they're going to tear it down soon because I think structurally it's not sound. But they've been battling of trying to save this old church. This nun convinced my mom to have me. She was like, Michelle, Anna Marie, that was her name. She's like, you were gifted this child by God, and it is your baby, and you are going to be a great mother.
Yeah.
And so my mom, like, she really like struggled with that for a little while, but then she was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to have this baby.
Convinced her.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Like what a change of a course of events that had, that chain of events that took place as a result of you being born.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, literally my mom was like not going to have me. She was like, I just don't think I can do it. But she just lacked the confidence. She thought that it wouldn't be good for me. And then this nun changed her mind and gave her the support, at least, mentally, that she can do this and she will do this and she will be, she will find a way.
Yeah.
And so it's funny. My mom told me that before she had me that she like put all of her makeup on because she was just like, when she wanted to be like put together and like pretty when she met me. She
wanted to be presentable when she met you?
Yeah, like isn't that, just to think about like,
that's interesting.
Where her mindset was at, like that she was so broken and not confident as a person that this was a comfort to her, was a kind of not a masking, but I kind of look at it as like, this is the only way that she could bring a little comfort to herself of like how she knew how to operate best in the world, was to try to fall back like on her beauty. My mom's a very beautiful woman. But still, again, like she just hadn't connected so many dots. But she told me, she was like, I wanted to do it. She was like, I was so nervous.
She was 16 years old.
My mom was 21.
21?
Sorry, she was 21. Who was 16? My grandmother was 16 when she had her illegitimate kid, or maybe even younger, 15, 16.
The one that you never really developed a relationship with?
Right. Okay. Yeah. But I do have cousins on that side now that I'm close with and stuff. So
that's a crazy family tree.
It's a wild one, I'll tell you what. Yeah, because we didn't really find out about him until much later in life. I mean, I remember I was in high school when I found out that my grandmother had this other baby, this boy that we never really knew about. So my sisters had a brother, and then he wasn't a good guy though. He wasn't really a stand-up guy.
No, that's unfortunate.
So
nobody's family's perfect though.
No,
I think that's a good thing to remember.
But he was a piece of work. He just wasn't a good guy. But that's, I mean, look, he's who knows his story? He probably has his own trauma too. I can't imagine being, swept away from your birth mother the moment you're born and being put into the arms of Catholic nuns could necessarily be the best way to jump into the world. Maybe they were all really kind and nice, but maybe not. And you don't know. We just don't know what happened to him. So look, trauma is deep, and unless you work through it and you figure it out, it can ruin you.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but not being raised by your own family or not having a mother and father in the same household.
Yeah, I have no idea what his story was.
That could totally jack your whole upbringing up and totally change how your brain forms.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then, you see some kids get adopted by like child molesters or people who are just horrible, even worse than we don't know. So I try never to like really point fingers too hard at people because some people are just broken. I think the most broken people need the most empathy. That's how I look at it. I think of the people who, when you see them homeless on the street and, they're addicted to drugs or whatnot, it's like, those people probably had it really hard and they are just trying to find a way to feel better, and they just have maladaptive coping skills because nothing else worked to fix it. They didn't have better skills and they got addicted, and that's probably how they ended up where they were, is like through a lot of pain.
It was somebody's baby.
It was somebody's baby,
Somebody's baby
if you had the gift of putting your hand on someone and knowing their whole story, I bet you if you walked around the homeless neighborhood, and you would probably be humbled very quickly and stop being so judgmental of people who don't, who are really broken people. They need kindness and love a little bit more than I think that they need more judgment. But anyway, so my mom had me, and I was raised at the house that my parents are still at right now. But at that time, my grandmother gifted it to my mom, but it was run down. It's a beautiful place. It was, again, 5 acres, had a lot of potential, but it was very run down. There were holes in the roof of the upstairs. I remember at one point.
Is this in Washington?
Mm-hmm. This is in Washington.
Okay.
Yeah. And then my dad, who raised me, and my mom started dating again when I was around 3-ish. But my dad was in the military, so he was stationed at McChord Air Force.
Oh, Joint Base Lewis McChord.
Yes, thank you.
JBLM.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not Air Force. He was Army.
He's Army?
He was Army, and he was.
Your dad was the one that raised you anyway.
Yeah. He was a Green Beret.
No kidding.
Yes, yeah. He was ground service, as he told me. He was always ground support. There we go.
Okay.
I want to say it right because when I very much lack a lot of the right terminology when I'm talking about military, events. But yes, my dad was ground support. So, but he never like deployed or went to war or anything like that. Not that that takes any credit away or anything. He was still just a badass of a human being, jumped out of planes and, you know, all the stuff that they do. Yeah. But yeah, so he was in the military, enlisted, and just broke his shit when my mom and him met. And so my mom has this, so he's still at the barracks. My mom's living, you know, at this house with me. And, you know, when he gets out of the military, he starts working at a moving company. Yeah, he worked for Atlas Van Lines. So he was a truck driver. So he drove trucks and delivered furniture. So back-breaking work. Yeah. But again, like during that transition time and when he was in the military and stuff, like neither one of them had like any money. And so I remember when I was like 4 probably, I remember that the power was shut off at our house and we actually stayed just in what's our study now. But we had a bed set up in there, which is my mom and we had one electric heater, and she had a friend of hers, Virgil, and he's passed away since, but
Virgil.
That's
an interesting name.
Yeah, it is an interesting name. Like they call him Verge.
Virgil is like from Dante's Inferno or something. Virgil? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's from like Dante's Inferno. I might be
right,
wrong.
Yeah. It sounds like a name you would say in the 80s only.
Yeah.
Or something.
In the 80s only.
Yeah, like I've never heard it again, you know?
Yeah.
So
this is your mom's friend.
My mom's friend worked for the power company, and he came over and flipped the power meter on for us so that we could have enough power. But he's like, but you've got to keep it under a certain usage because otherwise they'll like ding it. So you could basically have power going to a house as long as it's super, super, super small. Yeah. Because she didn't have enough money to pay the electric bill. That's why it got shut off.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so we had no power, and it was winter. And it was
Jesus!
Cold.
And he was trying to help you, like not die.
Like there's like snow on the ground.
He's like,
you know?
I don't want you to die, so I'm gonna turn your power
he's like,
on.
I'll turn it. I'm not supposed to do this, but I'll flip it on for you. I think enough years have passed, and again, he's gone. So rest in peace. But he flipped it on, and so all we had was to run that one, just enough to keep that one room warm. And I ate cereal like every single day.
You ate cereal like every day?
Every day, probably like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because we couldn't cook or anything like that for a little while. I mean, it wasn't forever. This was a season, you know. But But I still remember going out and one time to the bathroom and the toilet water being frozen over. Because I was like, that's a visual for me. Like I remember that time.
No kidding. Yeah, the toilet water was frozen.
The whole rest of the house was like absolutely freezing cold.
Oh my God.
But it was like literally, I knew nothing. I was not like, don't feel sorry for me. I was a kid and my mom was present and we had the best time. We had the best fucking time. Yeah. Like, honestly, it was like her and I, we would party. Like we had the best time. And she barely let on that anything was like wrong. You know, and this was before phones and electronics. So it was like, we were connected. Like it was her and I, like, and it was us against the world. And we had so much fun and we played, played Barbies and we had pillow fights and we just.
So you were very close during that period of time.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
Very much so. So, I mean, it was a great time and I would not change it for anything. Like it was amazing. And it gave me a lot of perspective and how hard my parents had to work to get that place in a reasonable, again, like I said, there was holes in the upstairs. Like it was like when it would rain, it was raining into the house. Yeah. And so it took a long time and a lot of work and a lot of effort and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, I would say, to get that. And it's a beautiful home now. You would never know. If you walked into the house now, you'd be like, oh, Miesha's always lived probably a pretty cush life. You know, it's a really pretty place. Yeah. But yeah, when I was young, it was not that. My parents were so poor that they put carpet in the kitchen because they couldn't afford like, I don't know, linoleum, whatever. And it was like, it's just really cheap. It was like an outdoor carpet, you know, like the thin kind that's like, it's not really like carpet, but it is.
Yeah.
It's like
I think I know what you're talking about.
Thin. It's they're very thin, like very pressed down. Like there's nothing, you couldn't run your fingers through it or like move it at all. It was like very thin, like an indoor outdoor carpet.
Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. It's kind of almost like just like a very, very thin fabric.
Yeah, it's just like, it's like if you took the carpet and you just like pressed it down, like you heat pressed it down or something like that. It's kind of like that. But it was carpet in the kitchen.
Wow.
So for a really long
easier
time,
to carpet. Get. It probably much harder to clean, I bet.
Oh, yes. It was ridiculous. It was not easy to clean at all because it was carpet. But I just remember it being a financial a decision. So I don't know if it was like on sale or like what it was or maybe it was given to them. I don't know.
Did you guys have like food stamps or anything back then?
Yeah.
Did you? Mm-hmm. We did too when I was a kid. We were pretty poor too. My dad washed dishes at a local inn and he was restoring furniture for people. And my mom was not working for a while. So like he was just working all the time. We had a nice house because he built our house. Like he built two of our houses. But we were pretty poor too. So, but I don't remember seeing the toilet frozen over. But I mean, it was very cold because I grew up in Maine. So
it gets colder there.
It gets really cold up in Maine too. Yeah, but we were on some government assistance, and that helped us get through a lot of stuff too, like being on food stamps, because we wouldn't have been able to like eat as good as we did during that period of time. But my parents sacrificed a lot. It sounds like your mom probably sacrificed a lot to make sure that she.
My mom literally had holes in her shoes. I'm not kidding you.
So kind of like my shoes.
Yeah, pretty reminiscent.
I'd rather not buy shoes for myself. I'm like, I'll pay for this video rather than pay for new shoes. That's how
if they're comfortable. I wear things till the wheels fall off.
Oh, me too.
I don't even like shopping, so I'm not a very good typical female. But I don't like shopping. I'm like, whatever. If I buy something, I usually don't try it on either, and I just really hope for the best. And if it doesn't work out, I just give it to my friends or something.
That's funny.
First world problems. But anyways,
first world problems. I know.
I'm very fortunate now. I do count my blessings.
Oh yeah, you're
crushing it now. For granted. But yeah, there was a trying time. My mom literally had holes in her shoes so that us kids could have like new shoes going to school. You know, she sacrificed in so many ways, and so did my dad. But my dad was like dealing with his own traumas and was a kid in a lot of his ways. And so my dad is 3 years younger than my mom.
Okay.
And he grew up in a very it was an abusive household. Yeah, his dad was abusive. That's definitely absolutely fair to say.
He was 18 years old when she was 21, essentially, if she's 3 years younger.
And I was born on my mom's 22nd birthday, so he was 19 when I was born, but they didn't know each other yet.
Yeah, okay.
So my mom and I have the same birthday, August 18th.
Really? Mm-hmm. You're both August 18th?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Same day. Mm-hmm. That's unusual.
Yeah.
I don't think I know anybody who's got the same
what's really funny
is
they scheduled her for cesarean. This is like a thing that they did back then. I don't know. They said I was probably too big or something, which is really a crock of shit. I'm so sick of the birthing medical field that's like, taking that right away from women just by, scaring them, fear-mongering. I don't like fear-mongering. Like, if you want to choose that yourself, that's fine. But, don't scare women into it unnecessarily. Like, let us have that rite of passage if that's what we want. But anyways, she wasn't afforded that opportunity, and she was too scared and timid. I mean, I think I've already painted a picture. My mom just felt like she knew nothing, and she was so underqualified, so she just listened to whatever. So she was scheduled for a cesarean.
Yeah.
And she didn't come in for her first one because she was just so scared. And so they were like, basically like, damn it, Michelle, like, if you don't come in by this, then we're reporting, like you have to come in. And they scheduled it on her birthday. So it was actually her second appointment. And she was like, I basically had no choice.
Well, so they did a cesarean section.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. And then you were born.
Yeah.
And you're the same age as me. I think you're a month older than me, right?
Were you born in 86?
Yeah, 86. Yeah. Or a couple months.
So you're in
September?
September?
Months older than me. Yeah. Because you're August, I'm November.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember that from the last time we talked. It's like we're both born in 86. But you look a lot younger than I do. I'm like a little more weathered because I spent too much time
I get
outside.
to wear makeup and color my hair, so
well,
it helps.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I should color my hair or something. I don't know. Or maybe not. Maybe just leave it. No,
it looks good. You got to rock the salt and pepper.
I try to rock it. Yeah, it's gotten a lot grayer faster. The older I get, the faster I get older.
My grandpa used to say that life is like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it goes.
Yeah,
I think it holds true.
So true. It's
so far so true.
So accurate. But so your mom ended up giving birth to you. Yeah. You kind of grew up relatively not like broke on the street, but just like very modestly like low income for a while, and then she struggled. What did she do for work?
My mom,
when you were a kid.
When I was a kid, she baked and sold cakes.
Sold cakes?
Yeah.
At like a bakery?
Yeah.
No kidding.
Yeah, she worked for a couple different bakeries. She's a talented baker for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, so I remember making cakes with my mom my whole life.
You made cakes too with her?
Yeah. And to this day, like sometimes I'll make wedding cakes for friends and stuff like that.
That sounds really good. I love cake.
I love cake too.
I freaking love cake,
Cupcake is my nickname for a reason because people buy me cake when you have a nickname. When you have a nickname like Cupcake, people buy you cupcakes.
Your nickname's Cupcake?
It's Cupcake.
Who gave you that nickname?
It kind of came from the irony of being feminine in the sport when it wasn't really, that wasn't really a thing. Like you don't want to be the cupcake in a combat sport You know, like you know what I mean?
Like you're like fist fighting to the death, basically. Yeah,
but you don't want to be the cupcake.
Cupcake.
So I kind of just embraced it, and I was like, okay, like that's what they want to think of me. Then I'm going to roll with it.
Yeah, and let them underestimate you.
Yeah.
Hey, my name's Cupcake. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, in my heels and dress and makeup and long hair. You know, and these. You know, at that time when I was first fighting, I'll be honest, most of the women were not very feminine.
They were pretty masculine.
Most of them, you know, were you know, they were just not wearing makeup and heels. They were definitely a little bit more on the, you know, representing a little bit more boyish.
Yeah.
But, and that's fine. I have nothing wrong with that. That's why Gina stood out so much to me. Gina Carano.
Gina Carano. I love Gina.
She's amazing.
I linked up with, she was a UFC fighter too?
So she fought in MMA. She fought in Strikeforce, but she retired before the UFC ever let women into the UFC.
I DM'd her the other day. Gina, if you're watching this, we need to do a podcast. I would love to do a podcast with her.
She's had a great career. I just did a solo episode on my podcast, Built for Growth, by the way. I'll just throw it out there right now.
Yeah, Built for Growth.
Yeah, which you've been on. You've been a guest. Phenomenal. By the way, do you still post like 16 times a day?
No, not that much.
Okay, because you were pretty crazy about that.
Yeah, my main channels are usually like 5 times a day.
Okay,
max.
That's still nuts. But when you were telling me that, I remember it was like 16. I was like, you're next level.
It was too much before that.
That's too much.
The podcast is usually like once per day during the weekdays, and then the main channels are usually 5 times a day. So
Gina, I did a solo episode, which I've done like 2 now. So I'll take the first half and I'll tell like a story of my life.
Okay.
And the first part of this episode was how I met Gina Carano.
Oh, really?
And the influence that she had on me and my whole career trajectory. Which
she had that much of an influence on you?
Oh, definitely.
Wow.
And she didn't do a lot. Like she didn't like, you know, take me under her wing and mentor me, but she meant that much to me in my career because she was so unique.
Wow.
I didn't know that. In her stance and position. Well, I was young and I just didn't have a lot of mentorship. Most of the mentors I had were males. Because, you know, like Randy Couture, he was like literally my first idol that I was like, I really like this guy. I'd never met him, but I remember seeing him fight in the UFC, and then he retired, and then he came back, and then, you know, I like cried when he retired because I'm like, gosh, this guy's a wrestler, and he's just so nice, and he's such a badass, and he's just like so great, and he's, you know, he's a veteran, and he's all these things. And at that time, I was in the Air Force ROTC.
Yeah.
So I was going to college, and so not, you know, there's nothing to brag about there, but there was just a lot of things that I looked up to him about. I was very much considering going down the path of becoming, you know, being part of the military. You know, he retired, and then Gina, when she came onto the scene and was the first female headliner for Strikeforce, and she fought Cyborg, and
Cyborg. Mm-hmm. Not to be confused with Cyborg from like Mortal Kombat, but like an actual person named Cyborg.
Yeah, person. Chris Cyborg. Yeah, do you know
Chris
her?
Cyborg.
Chris Cyborg Santos.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they fought each other, and Cyborg, you know, beat her pretty handedly, and she's been, I don't want to put words in Gina's mouth, but what I understood was that she was pretty bitter about that and pretty pissed, you know, at Cyborg. She didn't feel like it was fair playing field. She walked away from the sport and said, I don't ever want to do it again. And she never came back, and I was so sad. But I got an opportunity to meet her before that fight, and it was just brief. I remember that I was like, I didn't know if I was ever going to get to meet her. And like one day, it just like after an event, I was like, I walked into the room with some other friends, and like she was there, and I was like my jaw just hit the floor. I still remember she was like wearing this like black jacket and a gray jean skirt and like black boots, and she was like, oh my God, hi. She's like, you're so pretty. And she was just so sweet, like just genuinely like not like an inkling of like competition or jealousy or nothing like that. She was like, it's so nice not to be alone. And I knew what she basically, what she kind of meant was like nothing towards any of the other females. It's just that we were probably the only ones like carrying like a feminine energy really at that time, or in that room, you know.
And what year was that, you think?
2008 or 9.
2008 or 9.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so I think maybe she fought Cyborg in 2009 or
18 years ago.
A long time ago.
That's crazy.
And so really that's one of the few interactions. And then I had like one other time in person when we ran into each other at a gym in San Jose, AKA. We ran into each other there, and we like just chatted, and she's just so like, I can't emphasize the word kind.
Yeah.
any more than like this is what she is. Like she is kind and genuine, and she's a real person, a real human being who.
She got the short end of the stick when she was getting canceled back then because she was just speaking like from her heart.
Yeah.
You know?
And she's just not a person I've literally experienced that she's just not the kind of person to judge people on short-sightedness. Like she's really putting thought into the things that she's talking about. And I think trying to be a strong person and a strong voice for what she believes in, which I believe is equality and fairness and love and peace and acceptance. But a lot of people just don't see it that way. But I think a lot of people just don't want to think critically. They just want to hear what they want to hear.
Yeah, well, they also want other people to decide what they should be thinking.
Yeah.
You know, because it's hard to think about stuff. It's hard to have a opinion that you weigh all kinds of nuanced things because life is a nuanced thing. It's not like either this or it's this. It's not like that. Life is very nuanced.
Yeah.
And most people are just like doom scrolling on their feed and like they're like, oh, this person has this opinion on all these things. I'm just going to adopt that opinion because I don't have to come up with my own.
Right.
You know, and it's like, bro,
weird.
think for yourself, dude. Like, don't be a drone.
Do you think there's such a thing as like paid for bots? Like they're not real people.
Yes.
But there are these accounts that just go and make us feel like we're more divided, like basically go and comment.
I promise you that's happening.
See, like
I know for a fact it is. It's happened to me numerous times as well. And a lot of the times, so it's a couple things. Number one, there's adversaries around the world that don't like the United States, and it benefits them to get us to fight with each other.
Right.
It benefits them because the more they can get us to tear ourselves apart, the less work they have to do. It's like China. They could just literally have gigantic like facilities filled with servers and bots that can just like constantly be attacking American accounts all the time, sowing seeds of discontent 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they don't have to send a single soldier over here. They can just have us tear each other apart. And that's just one country.
Warfare.
But here's the thing. Every country's doing it. Every single country's doing it. I don't have proof the United States does it. I guarantee the United States does it. If other countries are doing it to us, we're doing it to them too. And at the end of the day, my personal opinion, and I know that Joe Rogan doesn't feel this way because he thinks that there should be like protections for whistleblowers, which having an anonymous account allows people to be like a whistleblower and post something that's crazy about a company. I feel like that enables bots to be allowed. If you had to verify who you were with your license, your ID to like have a social media account, you could get rid of all the bots because they couldn't verify with a license or an ID for them, because it's like, well, they could do counterfeit stuff. I guess they'd have to come up with that, but I don't know. There's a real problem with bots because it drives
like a worldwide policy. Because like even if we had that policy, it doesn't mean that like China or like Russia or anything would have those, like not have bot accounts either. You know, well, I mean, if you're talking about just spewing hate or whatever, but
well, you got X and you've got Google and you've got Meta, all located in America, and they're all American companies, and the entire world's using those companies' tech everywhere. So, because I mean, like Americans aren't like using WeChat or Weibo or any of these other things that China uses. Like we're not using their version of TikTok. We're using like the American version of TikTok or whatever. And so that may be one thing that's like driving a narrative that we're not really in control of. But yeah, bottom line is a lot of the stuff that you see like comment sections wise, especially if it's like a bunch of emojis and weird stuff, there are people out there driving traffic and like causing posts to go more viral by driving bot traffic to interact with it.
Right.
So that artificially inflates posts that would have otherwise not gone viral, and it makes them go viral because people paid to have that happen sometimes. And that's one thing, but then you've also got adversaries out there that are trying to push hate and discontent and just
how do you know this is happening though, by the way? Like how do you know?
Just from knowing people in like the open source intelligence reporting community. I've seen it happen. It's like Russia's doing it for sure, Ukraine's doing it against Russia, Iran's doing it for sure. You see it happening. Anything that has to do with Gaza at all, or that has had anything to do with that since 2023, heavily botted all over the place. Anything that there's any type of subject or like controversial topic in any way is heavily botted, getting targeted by a bunch of stuff like all over the place, especially if there's like very large celebrity accounts, because like people will target specific accounts that they know gets a lot of traffic to make it seem like that's the trending consensus, even though that's not the case. So like if there's like a really big prominent figure on social media that talks about a specific subject. Now this more so affects accounts that talk about current events, that talks about current affairs, geopolitics, politicians, government accounts. This doesn't really affect like brain rot accounts as much. Brain rot accounts or dancing accounts or people that do comedy, like comedy accounts, they probably don't get targeted by this stuff as much as like people that are known for being like geopolitical postings,
right?
Because they know people are going there for
like
that.
Doctors that were questioning things during COVID, like things like that.
That
right?
stuff
Where
like
it's
that.
Just like they want one narrative and they don't want another.
Yep.
So they try to silence people by making them feel like they're so alone.
Yeah.
And where they're standing, and that they're people are coming down on them, and death threats and these things coming from these bots. But I think it was Dr. Phil. I think I was listening to on Joe Rogan's that originally said that. I'm almost positive about the bots, and it kind of made me go, wait a minute.
It's a real thing.
That makes so much sense.
There's a lot more over 50% of traffic on the internet right now is bots. Over half. So that means that 1 out of every 2 people you're interacting with in a comment section is not a real person. And
we
that
look at
sucks.
their accounts sometimes, like the hate ones, and I think most people just assume that they're burner accounts, or that these people, create the people of America, create these fake accounts to like hate on these things. But you look at them, they have like no followers, no posts, no nothing, and you're like, but wait, this is a bot. This is what you're talking about.
Yep.
Exactly. I wish more Americans knew that. I wish more Americans knew that, because I think it would help us understand that we're not as divided as they would like to have us think that we are.
Yeah. Well, one good example of another thing that's been heavily botted recently is the ICE shooting that took place with Renee Good. The whole Renee Good topic in general was very polarizing, the most polarizing topic ever. And I noticed a lot of the posts about that were getting heavily botted with lots of opinions from a lot of accounts. A lot of times they'd be like, they have like 1 or 2 followers, and then they're following like 5,000 people, and then they have no profile picture and they have no post. A lot of the time that's the case, but then all kinds of other stuff. Since it's so polarizing, our enemies or our adversaries see that as like, this is a perfect opportunity to divide Americans further.
Yeah.
And so they take advantage of that. Any situation that's polarizing at all, they try to take advantage of.
I mean, it's in large part, a lot of times I think people are feeling like they have way more momentum and other people behind them, and we have our own people resisting our own people. There is, these micro civil wars just going on all the time between Americans and Americans, and it's so wild.
It is wild.
It was Jeffrey, what his last name is, but he talks a lot about political things going on, and there was this it would appear to be like maybe a Mexican American man walking down what appeared to be like the streets of New York, and he had like a flag sweatshirt on, and it just said freedom on it, and kind of like somehow was in like a little bit more of a liberal mob, and they were just absolutely would not stop berating him, because
it has something to do with like Charlie Kirk, because
he had
the freedom shirt on.
Yeah, he did have. Is that what it was? Yeah, I don't know. Then maybe it was a Charlie Kirk thing. I just thought it was American flag and freedom. Like literally, it was just a flag and freedom. I didn't tie it directly to Charlie Kirk, but perhaps that maybe that's what it was. But
it's
it was
possible. I might be wrong. I might not be right. I don't know. But
did you see that clip or no?
Well,
Do you think
I didn't see the clip. I just every time I see like people wearing a shirt that says freedom on it, I automatically think back to. A lot of people bought the shirt that Charlie Kirk was wearing when he was assassinated that said freedom on it. And so people have made a bunch of merch off of that to make money and sell that. And so then people start associating that word with a political ideology when in fact it's just a word.
Right.
It's not a political
what
ideology.
I saw on the sweatshirt, there was no indication that it was a Charlie Kirk shirt. Perhaps it was, but it was just the flag and it had the word freedom on like the backside of it. It just said freedom. But they wanted him to take it off, and he did take it off, and then they took it away from him, like this mob of people. But Jesus, what's wild to me is like, isn't that what we want America to stand for? Like, don't we want freedom in America? Isn't that what we all, like the pillar we should all kind of agree on? Like we should all have freedom, which even means like, even if you're wearing a shirt I don't like or agree with, the freedom.
I still want you to be able to wear it.
I still want you to be able to wear it. Yep. That's the pillar I stand on. It's like,
mine too. I feel the same way. Like, just because I disagree with someone doesn't make them my enemy.
Right.
It also doesn't mean that I want them to be persecuted for their beliefs. Like, I want people to be able to be free to choose however they want. I think as a society, we all need to be collectively against committing acts of political violence against people that we disagree with. I think that would be a good first step. Like, have some common sense, some thoughtful conversations about that. I think that there's a little bit too much vitriol in politics. I think we all need to be like take a step back, be like, hey, look, those are Americans and those are Americans. They have two different belief systems. That's fine. They shouldn't hate each other. The problem is like there's a lot of people that are making a lot of money posting things that divide those people.
Yeah.
And because once social media became monetized, there's a lot of people that were like, I'm going to take advantage of this and say the craziest stuff, off the wall stuff as possible to make money, and sell merch that does that too. And, and then on top of them doing that, you've also got like actual adversaries that are trying to sow seeds of discord, that are trying to divide us on top of that. And it's just like a very dystopian thing. But I think, that's it's one of the reasons why I think this stuff is so valuable, like where you can talk to people about things and have conversations.
You get real context. You get real feel and understanding where someone's coming from, as opposed to just a clip it that could mean so many different things when you don't have it inside the context of a long form conversation. So I'm definitely a fan of the sit down and talk.
Yeah, I think it's important, and face-to-face is just so much more valuable than just reading a paragraph or less of what somebody's thoughts were about something.
Nobody's reading paragraphs anymore.
Yeah, but people don't even want to read that. They want to read a sentence or like a couple of words and leave it at that. But like X is notorious for that. They'll have a sentence or two about something that's like a super hot take on something, and then it blows up and does like super crazy, and then people repost that tweet to their other social media accounts and all that. But I want to get back to Gina Carano a little bit. I think she's awesome. I'd love to interview her at some point. But so she was a big mentor of yours. You said Randy Couture is another big mentor of yours.
Yeah.
Actually, let's rewind even more. Back to high school real quick. So you said you wrestled in high school, right?
Right.
And what kind of wrestling was that? Roman Greco?
It was folk style.
What's that?
Folk style is like...
folk style?
Yeah, folk style. Folk style.
Folk style?
F-O-L-K. Folk style.
Like style?
Collegiate wrestling.
Collegiate wrestling? Okay, just collegiate wrestling. Yeah. And how competitive were you in that?
Well, I was wrestling guys, so not very.
You were wrestling guys?
Mm-hmm, not very. Unless I got to wrestle females, then I was competitive.
Okay.
But I was on a male team, mostly wrestling against males, with the rare opportunity that there was another female on an all-male team that was near my weight that I could compete against.
Yeah.
But I didn't start wrestling until I was 15. So, most of the high schoolers, most of them had at least started since they were in middle school.
Yeah.
It was kind of rare to come in as a freshman and have no experience and then just decide to go out for wrestling at that point. But that's what I did.
So it's like 2002.
Yeah.
2001.
Yeah. 2001, 2002.
You were drilling with the teams. You were practicing with them pretty regularly.
Yeah. So my friend Sharon... it was her idea to go out for the wrestling team. And so she asked me one day, we were sitting in English class, and she's like, do you want to go out for wrestling? And I was like, what? I thought we weren't going to do a sport and I was sad about it because I loved sport. Sport has just always been something that really, it meant a lot to me at that time in my life. It was an outlet.
Yeah.
My parents, not only struggled with, the financials, which of course the children feel that in the house,
sure,
but they struggled with each other. It wasn't always sunshine and rainbows. There was definitely a lot of stress. And I think when you have financial burden, it makes a relationship more difficult. Then you add kids to it and it just makes things more difficult. And then you have two very traumatized, broken humans that are trying to find a way to do this together.
Yeah.
And it was tough for a while there.
Financial pressures definitely take a toll on relationships.
And, there was a lot of dysfunction in the relationship. There was a lot. So, my dad was a hot-headed, he had a 6'7" father with a booming voice and an incredible temper that he was raised by.
Oh, wow.
I mean, my dad told me, stories about, literally his dad putting him through walls, put him like, you know what I mean? Like, or at least like, throw him against the wall and like it would break the shape of, my dad's body into the wall.
Into the drywall.
It just wasn't a good, solid kind of upbringing. And my dad's mom, I think, was just absent a lot. She worked a lot. She just wasn't really connected. She was someone, and I think you had to probably be to be married to someone like that.
Yeah.
My grandpa wasn't ever physical that I know of at all with my grandma on my father's side or women at all. But my dad was the only boy.
Okay.
So he was one of those kinds of fathers. It's like the girls are gonna, we don't touch girls, but you're going to get all the wrath.
Yeah.
Because then when they piss me off, it's you. I can touch you. You're a boy. And it was kind of similar with my dad in our family. I was the oldest, and I wasn't technically biologically his daughter, but he never laid a hand on me.
Yeah.
But my brother, who was 7 years younger than me, he got the whoopings.
Oh, did he?
And then my sister, who was 7 years younger than my brother, again, it wasn't a physical situation.
Yeah.
So, but there was a lot of just stuff that had not been worked through between either of them, a lot of terrible habits passed down by both of them. Fortunately, my mother took, ironically, more after her father in the kind, I will hear what you have to say, kind of like deep love person.
Yeah.
But I don't think that my grandma was as capable of that. So luckily my mom, she took more of that, but my mom was raised by my grandma. So again, a lot of her habits, a lot of her stress, a lot of her, anxiety and like maladaptive coping skills, was all just kind of like learned through that.
Did you get to meet your grandma at some point?
Oh yeah. My grandma was around in my life until I was in my 20s.
Okay. So you get to kind of get to know her personality a little bit.
Yeah, my grandma was a neat woman. I liked her a lot. And I was close to my grandma because while my mom was trying to get, money together and like work and do her odds and ends jobs and whatever she had to do, my grandma watched me a lot.
Okay.
So I lived with my grandma, but my grandma was a hoarder. So she had quite a disgusting living situation.
It was bad?
It was bad. I mean, I think that my grandmother was sexually abused. I think that when they used to have the outhouse, there was something she had about like going to the bathroom in the right place that she didn't always do that. She would like pee in pans, like pots and pans or cups.
Your grandma?
Over, to the sink and like put it in the sink, like dump these things down the sink. Yeah, my grandmother. I remember seeing or like witnessing my grandmother do that.
Wow. As a kid?
As a kid, yeah, being over there. And
I think she might have had some serious trauma.
Serious trauma.
Like real serious.
My mom says that she thinks that she would be like harassed or sexually abused when they would go to the outhouse. Because when they were, when she was young, there was like the outhouse. Like they didn't have like a toilet.
Yeah.
It was like you'd go to the outhouse. So I think that my grandma had some trauma about that. Because that was not a normal behavior.
Yeah, no. In pans and stuff and then pouring it into the sink, that's definitely,
she wouldn't
there's some real trauma, some dark stuff happened back there.
Yeah, and then the hoarding, a lot of people I think who do that kind of stuff, hoard and collect things and won't let things go, also suffer from some kind of trauma, and that's how they're coping with like this, the clutter or the mess, for whatever reason, allows them to feel comfortable. There was 2 times in my life that I felt very betrayed by my grandmother, and it was just a taste of what my mother probably went through. And as people get older, they get a little bit easier and nicer, right? So I can only imagine how much more vigor my grandmother had to be a pissant to my mom. Let's put it a nice way. I remember that there was this man, Walter, and he was a pedophile. Okay, and my grandmother and Walter's wife and his kids, who he sexually abused, were friends. I don't know if they rented from her, again, because my grandmother was in real estate, so she had like these rentals and these very weird people she would put in these rentals. But Walter was an old man by the time I was a kid. I mean, he was like 70s, 80s. I mean, he's old.
Yeah.
And
this was your grandma's friend?
Yeah, my grandmother's friend. My grandma was strange. I think there was a part of her that kind of got some kind of like Was titillation the right word? She hated men, but yet again, there was like a part of her that enjoyed some part of like this manipulation part of everything. I don't know how to even put words to that. It's very strange.
It makes sense. I think again, stemming from trauma probably.
Yes, that she could almost be an assistant in a way that was like made her feel worthy or made her feel like she was like attractive in some way. I don't know. My grandma was very like had some wires twisted somewhere.
Yeah.
It wasn't right. And by the way, Walter was not supposed to ever be near me. Like at all, ever.
Because he was a convicted, registered offender.
Yeah, he was a pedophile. Like he was never, ever supposed to be around me. And one time, my grandmother had him over to the house while my mom and dad were working. And there was two situations that I felt very uncomfortable with. I remember one, my grandmother had put me in the bath or showered me or whatever. And he wasn't there, that to my knowledge. As I remember as a kid, I was young, 6, when I was in the bath. But then she was sitting at her kitchen table and she called me out to come out from the bath and she had the towel, okay? And so I went to her and she was gonna wrap me up in the towel. And all of a sudden I heard Walter's voice from the doorway that was over. There was like the kitchen and there was a doorway and then you would go out the second door to leave the house and the bathroom was kind of back behind that in a hallway. So I had come out through the kitchen unaware of like his existence. And I turn around and I like, you know, I know enough to like have some modesty as a kid. You know, you just don't want people to see you naked. So
yeah,
like
some random dude.
Yeah, and so like I turn around and like he is just eyes on me. Like he's not looking at her while they're talking, okay? And I'm frozen. And with every part of like my being, I'm willing my grandmother to please put the towel around me.
You were naked at the time?
I was naked. I had just gotten out of the bath.
Oh my God, dude. And this dude's in there?
He's staring at me.
He's locked on you.
He's locked on me.
Oh my God, bro.
And my grandmother has the towel she was about to put up and she sets it on her knee and finishes this conversation with him.
While he stares at you?
While he's just locked on me.
And you're 6 years
and
old?
I'm 5, 6, 5.
This.
I don't even think
and you remembered this so vividly?
I remember. Like my heart rate's up right now.
Bro.
I remember this so vividly.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it was terrifying. And no, I was never sexually abused by Walter, but like that was mortifying to me. And I felt such a break in the trust from my grandmother that she wouldn't simply put the towel on me. Like she had to have known.
Oh, 100%.
She knew.
She had to have known that was wrong.
She had to know.
Yeah.
And so I mean, like I remember that, and
well, hurt people, man.
Yeah, and so there was something that was the power of her being able to give him the access to me in that way that was like titillating for her. That's what I believe.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, especially for people that were sexually traumatized. Mm-hmm. Those people are more likely to conduct that on others in the future down the road.
Correct.
Crazy. Like it's like this vicious cycle that just keeps repeating itself through the years. So there's a possibility of that too, if that was indeed the case with her.
And maybe it might have been that same day, but earlier in the day, and I don't remember if it was 2 different days, and again, he was not supposed to be around, and I don't know if I told my parents about that situation. No, I did tell my mom about it, because I remember having a knockdown drag out with my grandmother about it, and my grandmother calling me a goddamn liar. I remember that, and she was like, Miesha, you're a goddamn liar, and my mom's like, you don't ever tell like she knew, and she was like, you better. Yeah, so anyways, I remember that. And again, I love my grandmother. There was a lot of great things, but I'm just telling the 2 stories I remember. I'll tell you this story because I want to tell you what happened with my dad, which was like the coolest thing. I'll probably get a little bit emotional. But anyways, So maybe earlier in the day, because I remember the shower thing was at night. I remember the sun was down. I remember it was dark outside. So earlier that day, perhaps, I had been sitting and watching some cartoons on my grandmother's couch, and she had kind of this setup where the couch was against this wall, the front door was here, and the rooms were always they're like long shapes, right? So I'm sitting here and I'm watching. Now he's sitting in this chair right on the other side of the doorway that goes to the kitchen. So I'd have to make kind of this U shape in order to access my grandmother at the kitchen table and go past Walter. Okay. So I'm sitting and watching these TVs, and he starts talking to me, and he starts saying, you know, Miesha, it was like, why don't you come over here? I want you to sit on my lap. And I'm just like, you just know, like my hair is standing up right now. Like the hair on my neck was just up. And I was just like, why is this?
When you're 6 years old?
Yeah, I was young, 5 or 6 years old.
Oh,
and so
God.
like, I don't know why, but I feel immediately like scared and uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I've got to get out of this room into my grandmother's room, because he's on that side. Now, again, luckily he's old as the dirt. Like he's fucking old.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't honestly know if he even could have got a boner, which is like still really absurd to think that this never leaves them. Like even I bet you physically capable, he probably wasn't even. Like he's ancient. 80 plus, I don't know, but they're still mentally sick people.
Yeah.
Okay. So I like go to get past him, and he tries to grab my hand, and I'm able to yank it away, and I run to my grandmother, and I kind of like tell her, and she's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Nothing ever happened. And I think maybe it was like that whole day I had spent, and maybe that again was why I was so like, when I was like naked and he was right there looking at me, I just knew something was wrong. I just knew this was like the worst situation. And I remember like I went home and I told my mom and my dad, and she told my dad, Rob, the one who raised me.
Yeah.
And he swooped me up in his arms, and we got into our it was a Suzuki Swift, a little red car, little tiny red car. And his military, I'd never seen it come out like that before. He had me over his shoulder, and he went in there and he like threatened to like murder him. He was like, I remember like spit was like flying out of his mouth. He's like, if you ever fucking touch her, I'll fucking bury you. There's just like straight up like scared the shit, like not out of me, because I knew he was protecting me, but like with the most like force, like not to be fucked with.
Yeah.
Like straight up Green Beret mode on this dude.
Yeah.
And I was like, I better not fucking see you again.
Yeah. And that was at your grandma's house.
That was at my grandma's house, yeah.
Okay, so when they came and picked you up before you left, you told them what happened.
Something like that, or I had gone home and told them and they went back. Or that was like the next day or something. But like when he found out, like we got straight in the car. And again, it was so long ago, like the timeline of exactly when that happened. But I know my mom had created a safe place for me to talk to her.
Yeah.
So I knew that I could come to her and tell her these things. And when I told her and she told my dad, he was like, no fucking way.
He's like,
not on my watch.
We're going over there right now.
Yeah, right now.
Yeah.
Like we're going over there.
That's good.
And I've never in my life felt like more like loved or safe.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's kind of like, you know, the way it should be for parents. Parents should make an environment feel safe for kids, because the unfortunate thing is there are kids out there who don't have that feeling of safety at home.
Yeah.
They don't feel like home is their safe place. And I mean, that would be a rough spot to grow up in, you know?
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, what does that do to a person if you grow up in a place where you don't ever feel safe? You know?
My number one goal as a parent to my children, I have a 7-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old boy, is to create a place of safety for them. Like, I always want my children to know that they can talk to me about anything.
Yeah. Well, and
anything.
And just feel safe at home.
Oh yeah, feel safe at home, but like you can tell me anything and I will not judge you. I will be here for you. Yeah. So anytime my kids admit to like a wrongdoing, like, Mom, I lied to you earlier, I never give a big reaction of like, you know, well, you're in trouble now, or nothing like that. It's always like, well, thank you for telling me the truth. Yeah. Like, I always try to encourage them to, like, you know, it took bravery, it took fortitude, it took courage for you to come here and tell me that you did something wrong. I'm going to praise that more than I'm worried about what you did. We all do shit that's wrong. Can we be accountable for it?
Yeah.
Can we talk about it? Can we like be honest? That's what I want to worry about. I don't care that you even lied to me earlier, because if I reward you for telling me the truth now, the next time that you think about lying, you're just not even going to lie. You're just going to come and tell me the truth. Yep. Right? Like, you're like, yeah, last time I lied to Mom and then I told her the truth and it was fine. It's like, I'm just going to tell her. I'm going to tell her the truth. Like, I'd rather have that kind of relationship than to like beat my children or like you punish them for like doing wrongdoing. Like, man, I just think there's a better way to do it. I really do. And I think with my kids, I've been, you know, let's say that your kids, I'm going to draw an analogy, like wet the bed. What kind of a response do you think that your child will have to you if you found out that they wet the bed, especially if like they've done it before, you know? What do you think they're gonna do? And that's just like a good way to stop and like do a check real quick. Like, do you think that your child will come and tell you without like feeling guilty or anything, like, I wet the bed again? Like, they're gonna be honest with you? Or you think they're going to be scared to tell you? Or do you think
they're probably going to be embarrassed by it initially?
Right. They're only embarrassed if you've created a situation to make them feel like they're wrong for it, like that. So I mean, because when they're little too, I think that when they wake up and they're wet, their first thought, if like complete innocence, is not to think that they should be embarrassed. It's just like, oh, I peed the bed, until you come, if you make a big deal out of it, or you make them feel bad about it, or you create a situation where they're like, oh shit, I'm bad. Like, I'm bad for doing that. This is embarrassing. So it all depends on how you help them feel about it. Now, I'm not saying you want to encourage them. You don't want to be like, yeah, you pee the bed.
Hey, good job, son. You pissed yourself. Good job.
but like, hey, like, oh man, all right, like, let's try again tonight. It's like, it's okay. Like, it happens, but you'll get better about it. Let's make sure we potty before. Like, do you want me to wake you up in the middle of the night? Like, what can you do to support your child through the situation so that doesn't happen? And so that they can also feel like, I can come to mom and dad and tell them that I didn't mean to, but like, I peed the bed. I'm still learning. Like, are they going to support me in that? Or are they going to make me feel like I've got to either lie about it? Or some kids will even go to the level of probably trying to hide it. Like, some kids are going to wake up so stressed and like, probably like, like try to change their bed sheets or put a blanket over it. Like, they're not going to tell you because they're just so afraid of how you're going to react to them. And this is just like so simple. Life doesn't have to be that hard.
Did you make them do their laundry when they wet the bed?
No.
No?
I didn't. They were little.
Okay.
I mean, they're little. Like, I mean, I'm talking like, I think my son was potty training up till 5, but my daughter was done by 3. Like, she was really good. You have
2 kids though?
Mm-hmm. My daughter did it really early and young. But, my fiance had spinal bifida. And that is like in layman's terms, it's like the nerves of the base part of the spine don't fuse until sometimes later in life or sometimes at all. And it can diminish, so my brother had this too, it can diminish the feeling or sensation of having to go to the bathroom.
Oh, because of spina bifida?
Because it
reduces the sensations?
Exactly. You just don't always know what your child is going through or what state of development that you're in. And sometimes our expectations or, what we think is right. If your child is a good child and you've created a safe environment and they're doing the best that they can, like, why are we assuming, or why are we taking this to a place of toxicity?
Yeah.
They will get there. Like, what do you got to do? Like, how do we, we just praised our son whenever he would have dry nights. We'd mark it on the calendar and it'd be like, oh, that's so great. Like, when you get 30 days of dry nights or 15 days or whatever it was, like, we would do something special for him and we would set up motives. Like, we would just be like, that's so great. You're doing so awesome. And so like, he was motivated himself. Like, he genuinely wanted to like not pee his pull-up at night.
Yeah.
He really didn't want to pee it. Like, he was excited for his, his marking his calendar and like being, as opposed to like reprimanding him. So
this is when he was around like 5,
4.
6?
Yeah, 4. 5, he was like potty trained like into his 5th year. It took him a lot longer. I mean,
that's a very creative way of encouraging that though. Like these are things that you come up with as a parent. I've never had any kids, so it's not something that would have occurred to me.
But it's just more like, you can break a wild horse and you can force it to do what you want, or you can bond with it and it will do what you want because it loves you and has bonded with you.
Yeah.
There's 2 ways to get what you want, but one way I think is more wholesome and more creates the environment of, if that pen door is ever open and is a horse gone, or is a horse going to be like, no, I like it here. Like,
yeah,
it's pretty great. They treat me well. They treat me well and they feed me, So I mean, there's 2 ways to get what you want. And so this is how we worked it around we wanted to encourage him, not shame him. We wanted to create a safe place, not a place of, where he's going to have to feel scared. And that for me is also propelling into his future, like if my daughter or my son were ever, to party and they're 16 years old and they've been drinking and I want my daughter to know that she can tell me, Mom, I know you wouldn't be proud of me right now. I'm 16. I know I've had a few drinks. It's not safe for me to drive. And there's a guy here that's really making me feel uncomfortable. Yeah. Can you please come and get me? That she will know that I will not be like, are you fucking kidding me? You're drinking, 16 years old. You like, what do you think? Like there's parents out there that just react.
They'll freak, yeah.
They freak, and that kid will not call you because you've taught them that you are not safe.
Yep.
And I'm not again saying that I want my daughter in this situation or that I will be happy that she's 16 at a party drinking. I will not be. But the most important thing is that she knows that I am her mother first and I love her first. and her safety will always come before like anything. So like she can always call me. She can always be like, hey, and I will be there and we will talk about it. Like, well, you know, like, so now that you're home and hangovers over, what were you thinking? Like, why did you, like, what made you make those decisions? Like, what do you think about that? How do you feel about it? And we'll talk about it, and I will hope to help her get to where she's making better decisions. Hopefully the way that I'm doing this now, I hope that we don't cross that many bridges like that where, you know, she's at a place where she feels like she needs to even engage in things. I don't think so. I think we're on a good trajectory. But again, you know, I haven't crossed the teenage years. I'm sure there's many challenges, you know, that before I had kids, you know, of course you think it's going to be so easy and like, oh, why do parents do that? Why they don't? You know, now that I have kids, I'm like, oh, okay, you know, I get it. It's really hard. So I haven't got to the teenage years yet, but I hope that I'm setting up a place where she knows and he knows that first and foremost, before judgment, before reaction comes love. And that's what we will lead with. And there will be consequences. There's always consequences, you know, to the things that, you know, that my kids do, but that's not the primary, that's not the safe haven that I'm trying to create.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's definitely benefit to like what you're saying. Like if you like freak out on them because they jacked something up, then they're like, I'm never going to tell them again.
Well, they learn right away. They've got to hide it.
Yeah. And you don't want that, man, because like, what if they're in a dangerous situation that they do genuinely need some help, but they're afraid to call you? Like,
if your children lie, I think it's your fault.
Yeah. A lot of times it's a lot of times that way, but also because like, you know, part of it's like the people that they're surrounding themselves with, you got to have conversations with them about that probably too, imagine.
Yeah.
And that's a hard conversation, you know?
Of course. And, you know, people say it's 50% nature, 50% nurture. I think it depends on how strong the nurture is. There's a book by Dr. Gabor Mate, who is a trauma specialist, who I'm just a huge fan of, and he's taught me so much. I've never met the man, would love to do a podcast with him at some point, but incredible. And it's called Hold On to Your Kids. And it talks about the parental attachment versus peer attachment. And peer attachment becomes much more prevalent and stronger in children who don't have strong parental attachment. So when you have strong parental attachment at home, it's like that is their home base. They come back to that for everything as they're branching out a little bit more in life. That's their honing spot. That's the place where they come back and be like, you know, is this a safe place for me to talk about the things that happened today at school, or is it not? And if it is a safe place, they'll always come back to you and they talk to you about, I mean, my kids talk to me about the damnedest things. Like my daughter came home and was like, oh my gosh, my crush today gave me a kiss on the cheek, you know? And instead of me being like, what? I'm going to go talk to his mom. That's unacceptable. You know, if she's 6, like, hello, obviously I don't want that.
Yeah, I don't want to like
come
have
on,
a knee-jerk reaction.
But it's just like, but instead of the knee jerk, it's like, oh, really? Like, well, what happened? Like, tell me about it. Okay. And I was like, and then it will get into like the lesson part of it, which is like, well, do you really think that that's appropriate? Like, but getting her to try to think a little bit of the answers as opposed to me like force feeding them. A little bit more of like a Socratic discussion about it, as opposed to like me telling her, this is how you have to be. I'm not always going to be there in her life.
Yeah.
I don't get to make all the decisions for her life. So the younger I can start getting her to start thinking about making the right decisions and trying to like influence her through what I believe is the best, but ultimately it's her choice. Right? I mean, all of it is her choice. She can hide it or be punished for it. I can, you know, do all the reprimanding I want as a parent, but someday she's going to either give me the double birds or she's going to give me a double underhook hug, you know?
A double underhook hug. That'd be very fitting for the Miesha Tate's daughter to commit to one of those, a double underhook hug. That's so funny. I've never heard anybody put that, but that tracks for you for sure.
Yes, it does. So anyways, that's where I'm going. You know, she'll tell me those things, and then I'll try to help her navigate and give me the question. You know, answer her questions with more questions until she gets to a place where it makes sense to me. And I'm like, it's not really an age appropriate thing. You know, what did the teachers do? Like, okay, and then that's not something that I think, you know. Like, do you agree? Probably something we shouldn't, you know, do at 6. You know, she's just like, yeah. She's like, okay, Mom, I won't. I'll make sure that doesn't, you know, like things like that. You know, we get to a place where it's like this good understanding, and it's coming from her because I want her to be, have her own autonomy. And my son too. I want my daughter to know she deserves respect, and I want my son also to know that. But I think this comes a little bit more naturally to guys. But I want him to have a healthy respect for
women.
Yeah, for women and people, but of course women, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's a thing that's like you have to start at a young age with that kind of stuff, like not allowing them. Well, not necessarily allowing them, but like explaining Because like the tough part with that is like one of the biggest problems with young men, I think, is being exposed to all of this adult content on the internet, because like that right there, I think causes more damage to the male brain, especially the young male brain, than anything that could ever happen to them in their personal life.
It will ruin relationships.
It'll ruin your ability to be able to connect without it having to be in a sexual manner with the opposite sex. It ruins your impression of the way you perceive women. Mm-hmm. It's just not good. It's not healthy for young men. And like, I mean, a lot of us as guys do this stuff like when you're young, and then you go out and you're just like this dude that is kind of viewing women the way you view the steaks at the Whole Foods market, where you're like, oh, I really want that one right there.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's not like
absolutely.
That's not a healthy way to look. Like that's a person. You have to remember.
Yeah, someone's daughter, someone's sister.
That's somebody's daughter. That's somebody's baby. It doesn't matter how old they are. They could be 30 years old. That was someone's baby. And having a healthy respect, and part of that has to do with having a good father figure, I think, because like that's also something that as fathers you have to ingrain in your son. You have to teach them. But then it's like, how do you stop them from getting exposed to all of that content online that is morally degrading on women and all this other stuff?
I have this thought and struggle all the time with my son. I mean, but he's only 5, but I know that that's coming. It's inevitable because the access is there. But I think, again, it comes back to building the love and trust that what I say isn't coming from a place of control or because I say so, or I need to have established a relationship with my son that he knows that when I tell him something, it's coming from a place of love and because I care about him, because I've established that. And I hope that when I say these things to him, I'm not saying that this will completely make sure that the situation never happens, because I don't think that's realistic. Yeah. But I hope that he remembers, you know what? I hope it clicks earlier for him. I hope he remembers, like, mom's taught me a lot about, like, that these things, like, can really make me, like, not a very good husband, or like, and I want to be a good husband, or these things could make me this way. And I hope that he moves through that stage with a sense of awareness and like faster maybe than people would have if it had never been talked about, because I'm talking about it to my son. I'm talking about it with him. I'm literally going to talk about porn and talk about like the internet. I'm also going to draw heavily on human connection, like how would you feel like if your sister, like somebody was like, looking at your sister that way? Like, you love her, right? You want to protect her, like, and draw on the empathy. This is what I do with the kids at the playground. Like when kids are like, they do something and they hurt a kid, or they didn't share and it hurts a kid. Like, as I try first, rather than punishing, is to try to draw on their empathy. Yeah. And so I think I'll try to do that, or be like, how would you feel if somebody was treating your mom like that? How would you feel if somebody was treating me like that? Like, what would you think? Like, I'm a person. And by the way, these girls that are doing this usually didn't have dads and moms, or a family,
or they
good
had
family,
trauma.
Or they have trauma. Real like dads and moms that cared in the ways that helped them to like find, a different path. Like a lot of the women that are in strip clubs, a lot of the women that are in the porn industry are traumatized. Yeah. A lot of them are.
There's a lot of real serious trauma there with a lot of these folks. And I mean, I have friends that are in that industry.
And that takes the fun right out of it, though. When you start realizing how broken generally broken these people are, then it's like, this doesn't feel very good anymore. Yeah. Like, once you humanize the situation and you humanize those people, it's a lot more difficult to just treat them like the steak on the shelf.
Like I said, I have friends in that industry. Some of them are vets, you know, like I'm personal friends with some of them. And it's
me too.
I'm not going to tell them not to do it, but it's like, I understand the dangers of it, and like the negative impact it has on young men specifically, I think. Yeah. And I've had my own struggles with that, like most young men did, especially young military men. And that's been something I've dealt with for, throughout my young adult life. And, as I've gotten older, perceptions have changed of a lot of things, and I've gotten better at, I would say, communication is number one, and better at like, being actively conscious of like how I'm perceiving people and like how I'm communicating with people. Because like, I would never in a million years want to put people in a position like the way that old man made you feel. You know what I mean?
And
there's ways
men do that all the time to women. And it's so uncomfortable. And we're very aware of it. Like, we have to walk to our cars differently. We don't like being catcalled at. No. Don't like being whistled at. We don't like being looked at like we're a piece of meat. And it's scary. It's intimidating.
Yeah.
To be honest, like, it really is. Like, it's just, that's not a good feeling to feel like that. And we can tell the difference between someone who's like cutely interested and someone who is usually, unless the girls are very damaged themselves. And then there's of course, there's a whole other aspect where she doesn't know how to value herself beyond that anyways. Yeah. So
there's a lot of that too, but let's reel it back in again here. I know these are good. Like, I think these are super valuable, like, touch points no matter what. But I want to kind of talk about, so you wrestled in high school. When did you decide to become like go into fighting, like actually fighting? How old were you?
I was 19 and I was going to Central Washington University. Okay. And I had another friend of mine, Rosalia, who was my neighbor in my dorm. And she was into karate, and she had been looking on campus for something that was like a mixed martial arts type thing, and she found it. And then she came to me. I was like, Miesha, I know that you wrestled in high school. Why don't you come with me? And I was like, no, thank you. No. I mean, I literally thought I was going to be like, being like, whoa, like doing karate, like, I was like breaking. I was like, no, I don't think that is for me. Like, it just seemed like very froofy. And I'm not trying to like poo-poo that or anything, but I was 19 and I was like, I just don't want to do that. Yeah. So I didn't go with her. And then she came with me. She came back to me the next day and was like, you have to come. Like, you're going to love it. They're mostly, former wrestlers. So Central had cut the wrestling program, I think the year before I went there. So like there were some wrestlers that didn't transfer out to other schools. And so they had started this club sport. And so she was like, they're former wrestlers. You probably really, really like it. You should come. And I was like, okay. Very reluctantly. Yeah. So I was like, all right, fine. You're going to keep bugging me about it. I'll go with you and humor you one day. And then like my first day, I learned how to choke people. And it was awesome.
And it was on?
I loved it.
Was that it there?
Right then. I was like, what? I was like, you could choke people in these holds? I was like, this is great.
You could choke people?
Yeah.
And that's what got you, like, what? I think I want to fight people for a
living. Yes, literally. No, not that far. But I loved it. I loved it. And I was like, I want to do this. I want to learn this jiu-jitsu. Yeah. I didn't know what it was, but I was like, well, it's kind of like wrestling, but there's like a different objective. I think I could add that to my repertoire. That'd be fun. Yeah. And so I started going, and I didn't ever want to take part in the striking aspect of it. So like they would break the classes apart. It was only on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they would like have the striking part. And I was like, nope, not for me. I would always do the jiu-jitsu part. And then I made friends with some of the guys on the team, and they invited me to an amateur fight event in Yakima, Washington. And so I went, and I just loved the whole event. I was just like mesmerized by it, like a moth to a flame. Wow, this is not what I thought it was. I always thought of fighting and everything as just barbaric and people with problems and issues, and like not at all something I would be interested in doing. Yeah. Like zero. And then I watched them fight, and I saw the vigor and the passion and the drive and the ethic, the just sheer will and determination. And I was like, wow, that was incredible, and I loved it. And then I remember they made an announcement at the very end of the fight card, and they were like, in 3 weeks we are going to have an all-female fight card. So if anyone in the audience would like to make their way down and sign up, it was like without any, coaches or. I went down and I just signed up.
You just went down and signed up?
I literally went down.
You had no coach or nothing at that point?
I was still training just at the college. It was just fellow kids.
Wow.
Kids, like.
You're like, I'm putting my name in that
Well,
hat.
I was just stupid. I didn't even know that you should have a coach before. I didn't know. I was just so pumped up after watching just like that. I mean, if you watched an amateur fight card, they're better than the pro fight cards, in my opinion.
Are they really?
They're more fun to watch.
Why do you think that is?
Well, because they don't calculate risk very well.
Oh, so they're just going at
They just go at it.
That's kind of like how college football is.
They're so nervous because they know that there's a lot they don't know.
Yeah.
And so they just go ham. Like they just don't know what.
Just go ham.
They don't know what to do or not do. I mean, they kind of know what to do because obviously they train, but they are usually so full of adrenaline. They haven't learned to manage that very well yet. And they know there's a lot of things they don't know. So they just try to like do everything to the max.
Yeah.
And so it's really fun to watch. A lot of the boys from the reservation would fight like these, amateur training fighters. And so they had this little group that would train on the reservation, but they were just, a bunch of boys without a coach, just watching the UFC and trying to mimic these moves.
Yeah.
So they weren't real, but they were fighters. I mean, it was like in their blood. Like they loved fighting and they were so tough, and they would get out there and they would fight these, more legit, I guess, by typical standard fighters. And sometimes they would just pull it off. Like they just had the will. They had lacked the refinement that the other fighters, and they would just outwill them. They would outwork them. They would just go. And I remember this one kid got a triangle choke, and he got picked up and slammed and like knocked out. Just cold.
He put a dude in a triangle choke, and he got knocked picked out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because they didn't know like hook the leg and keep him down or anything. They didn't know that stuff. So and so he got knocked out. I mean, it was just incredible. And I remember thinking all the things that I thought about fighting just kind of went away, because when I saw all that, it was not at all what I pictured, of stupid toothless street brawlers. That's kind of like what you thought people. I was like, no, these people have heart and passion, and they work for it, and they have tenacity. And so I signed up, and then 3 weeks later I had my very first fight, and my mom was like, what are you doing? She drove, what is going on right now? She's like, we thought wrestling was bad enough. And so she drove from Tacoma over to Wapato, Washington, which was, quite a few hours. It was icy. It was in December. And I had my first amateur fight. I fought this gal named Liz Posner. Her and her husband owned a Muay Thai kickboxing academy in like Vancouver, Canada. I remember in the first round, I took her down. And it was like, I'd never had an easier takedown in my life, honestly, because I've been wrestling guys my whole like wrestling career, and they were just so. And she stood tall, like that the Muay Thai stand, high hands, and so I took her down, and she almost armbarred me because again I was not very good on the ground either. I was still pretty much just a wrestler. I probably barely even punched her. I think I just tried to pin her because I had 2 or 3 weeks of like striking training and it wasn't even every day. I was a college kid, broke, working and going to school and everything. And so you don't get good at anything in 3 weeks, basically.
No, yeah, it's hard
and so I took her down. I won the first round. Second round, they came up with a better game plan. So they put me in a Muay Thai clinch. I'm sure you probably know what that is, but it's like...
I don't actually.
Okay.
I know nothing about professional fighting.
This is fine. I'm going to explain it to you. So you take your hands and you cup behind the back of the head here. So if I was to hold your head here, and you put the forearms in front and you kind of close your elbows. So you've got their neck stuck in...
Oh.
Yeah, and you're kind of pressing your elbows like in a crowbar fashion. So you're bending their head down and pushing their collarbone away so that the head's kind of being forced over.
Okay.
I didn't even know what a Thai clinch was. Okay, so I'm just as like you right now, being like, I have no idea. I probably wouldn't have even caught on as fast as you did.
Yeah.
I literally was oblivious to this move. I don't know what it is. All I'm trying to do is grab her legs. Well, there are knees flying up at my face. And one of them just clean on smashes my nose. Crunch, big break.
Oh, wow.
And blood immediately begins to pour down into my mouth. And I remember I was still trying to grab her legs, and I'm going so far in and down that I'm like at her ankles. So she's kind of like let go of this Thai clinch by now because she was like, bent over in half, like trying to hold on to this to me. And I'm driving, and we're in a boxing ring. We're not actually in a cage.
Yeah.
So there's not as much to like push on because we'll sometimes you can go through the ropes. But anyways, I'm like at her ankles, I think, trying to grab. And she steps one big leg out and she goes behind. So she gets onto my back.
Oh, she gets your back.
She got on my back and she was trying to get a chokehold in. And I'm turtled up. I've got my neck tucked into my shoulders. So my shoulders are up at my ears. I'm on all fours. My elbows are down, and my knees, and she's got her hooks in, so she's like a backpack. And I remember looking at the canvas floor and watching the blood steadily pour out of my face.
Oh, God.
And this pool of blood is just getting bigger in front of my face. And while she's trying to choke me, and I'm kind of like, I'm turtled up and I'm trying to defend. And then she sits up She's also hooks in, but she's not really like getting the choke in. I don't think grappling was really her forte anyway. So she's like, I'm just going to punch her. Well, she starts punching me, and one of them hits my ear, and it feels like a bee sting. I mean, it just zapped me out of that very surreal moment of me kind of being like
in the zone for a second.
I was processing for like, and I'm sure it was a few seconds really, but like in that moment, it felt like I was like moving very slowly through time.
Right.
And she kind of zaps me out of it, and I just got pissed. And it's the only time in my career that I've lost my temper, because I usually just don't get mad in fights. I understand that people are there to try to like beat you up, and so like, what's there to be mad about? I signed up for it. But in that fight, I knew nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what I was signing up for. I was very ignorant, and I just jumped before I really knew anything about anything. And so I got pissed, and I started to like do this hula hooping motion, which is from wrestling. You try to like get them down or off of you.
Yeah.
So I'm peeling her hooks out, and I'm bucking her off, and she loses her position. And I kind of like rope her other leg down underneath me. So now she's under me. Okay, so I'm in the guard position now.
Yeah.
I remember just standing up to the ceiling and just trying to hit her with everything.
Just hammer fisting.
Just hammer fisting.
Dude,
I mean,
that's
everything.
That's like what everyone resorts to. I don't know what else is going on. Hammer fist time, dog.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was whatever I had. Whatever it was just, I was trying to hit her with everything.
Yeah.
And I remember, blood just all over her, all over me. I mean,
out of your nose, all over the place.
I was pouring blood.
And she was probably just as like, shocked. That's a shocking thing to have happen to you. Get someone else's blood pouring.
Oh yeah,
all in your mouth.
Oh yeah,
it
was like
face.
on her. I remember seeing it like on her cheeks, and I remember vividly that one moment where she was like this, like trying to kind of like weather the storm, and her cheek was, and I was just like, like I was just, I was like coming down on her, like she didn't even have time to have her eyes open, I think, for even a split second, because I was just going ham.
I can visualize this in 4K, shot with an IMAX camera when they're doing your documentary one day.
So then the round ends, okay? And I go back to my corner, and it's just like silence. Like
nobody's saying nothing.
Nobody's saying
making
shit.
Noise. Jesus.
Nobody's saying shit. And my cornerman at that time did not know what to do or think, because I'm just like, I don't even know if they could stop the bleeding, but there's just so much blood. Yeah. And I'm this 19-year-old girl, a broke college kid that just like, they just met.
Yeah.
And they're like,
just met. And you're just going ham. You're bleeding all over the place.
Bleeding all over the place. And they're like, what do we do? Like, she's a girl, I feel like that's the impression, was kind of like, if it was one of the boys, it's kind of like, okay, dude, yeah, like go back out there and get it. You got to figure it out. But it's like, because I was a female, I feel like the protection instinct, like the kind of the gut, how wrong would it be of us to send her back out there? Like that would be on us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there was this kind of like, and so they threw in the towel. So really? I never got to go back out for the third round.
That was the second round.
And
it was intense.
It was
by the sound
intense.
of it, dude.
It was very intense.
That is like a visceral description. That's like you went to war in that ring, dude.
I went to war. Absolutely. It was my first experience. And so I think I aged my poor mother 10 years.
I bet you did.
At least.
God.
And then they kind of ushered me back, and my mom was like looking all over for me. And she found me like just bleeding over a trash can. And I was kind of by myself. Again, it was just like the fight industry. Like people weren't really, I don't know, like it just wasn't people were not very sensitive. It's just like what it is, like, or they were uncomfortable with it. I don't know. So anyways, I don't think there was that many people around me at that moment, or if there was, maybe I just don't remember. But anyway, she said she found me kind of by myself. And so I was just kind of like bleeding over the trash can, and she took me home, and we actually got pulled over because she was speeding, and the cop was like, never mind, just go, because my face was just like, okay, so this is a really funny part. So remember,
we got pulled over on the way back, and it's like, I got a towel full of blood.
We got off. The cop let us go for sure, but because I was quite a sight to be seen.
Imagine.
So we go home, and it's Christmas break, and my grandparents on my dad's side, remember 6'7", booming.
Oh, okay.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my nana, they were visiting from out of town, and I was like, oh, great, because my grandfather was, I would say, chauvinistic. That's a good way to say it.
Your grandfather, the 6'7" grandfather?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just, women have their place, and it's not fighting for free in a ring. You know,
okay.
like,
He wasn't like fan of women combat sports or something like that?
Far from it.
Yeah.
Just not even really thinking that, you know, there's certain things that women should do and there's certain things that they should not.
Yeah.
So just old school. And my grandpa and I we had a bit of like we had a bit of butting heads. I remember like he, you know, one time commented on the color of my hair, you know, like, oh, you dyed your hair. It didn't look very good. And I was like, good thing I didn't do it for you. You know, I was just kind of like a little bit sassy back at him. You know, I was like, it was the kind of relationship that we had. I was like, oh, great. Because I woke up the next day and I looked like a lion and a raccoon combined, like had a baby on my face. That's what it looked like. Like my nose was so swollen that I didn't have like the definition of a bridge anymore. It was just like kind of like wide and flat out to my cheeks and even in a bit on my eyes, like the inside of my eyelids, you know, were like swollen into my
black and blue eyes, inside your eyes,
and two giant raccoon black eyes underneath.
Is that the first time you'd ever had your nose broken?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't remember a time before that. I know my nose bled a lot in wrestling, but I don't think that I ever broke it. But I was like a bleeder. I would just get a bloody nose. Like, it happened a lot. So
yeah. One of the things I think is very interesting is the fact you remember the name of that woman.
Yeah, I never
remember
forgot
her
it.
name. That was your first.
I've tried to find her. I've tried to locate her.
That's your first time fighting. I mean, how many fights do you think you've had since then? Like hundreds?
Oh, not hundreds, no, but a lot of gym wars. I think like around 30.
30?
Yeah,
30 professional fights.
No, let's see. I'm 19 and what is my professional record? I don't even remember. 19 and 9.
Yeah, type in.
Oh my goodness.
Type in Miesha
What is my
Tate's record.
I feel like I have 29 professional fights.
20 and 10.
20 and 10?
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Okay, I give myself too much credit. Yeah, it was okay. 19 and 5 at some point.
It's still like a lot more fights than I've even.
And then I had.
It's more fights than what most human beings experience.
So 30. That should be easy to remember. 30 professional fights and then 6 amateur fights. So 36 fights.
36. That's a lot, man.
But most of the fights happen in the gym.
Okay.
If you're being honest, I mean,
because
like,
when you're training and stuff during camps.
Yeah, of course. So I mean, most of everything that's like.
But that's what I mean. Like you fought some other human being like hundreds of times.
Yeah.
If you include all of the camps and all the people you fought working up to build up to fights and stuff. And so like that's why I think there's a significance to the fact that you remember the very first person's name. And you've had hundreds of fights. You probably remember a bunch of people's names, but that first person you specifically. But some
people I don't. I'd have, like, if you were to ask me to name every single person, I'd have to really think about it. And there'd probably be some that I'd be like, I wouldn't recall. Yeah. But I remember her name because I really wanted that third round, and I was always bummed that I never got the chance to see what would happen. But at the same time, flip side of the coin is that I was kind of grateful that happened in hindsight because I never started my career undefeated. It was always an uphill battle. I mean, that was to start your fighting that way. Most people thought I would never fight again. I mean, they were like, that was brutal. And, she's 19. She didn't know what she was getting herself into. So we'll probably never see her again. Yeah. But I was like, no, I just didn't prepare right. I was like, I could get better with preparation. Yeah. That's what I learned in wrestling too. I was by no means like a, phenomenal wrestler, at least compared to the guys. I mean, I did win state for women my senior year.
So when people say that you've got a background in this, yours would have been a background in wrestling.
Correct.
Okay.
But state, I want to be very transparent about that. When they say state for women, what the men have to go through to win state was nothing like, I mean, it was way harder than what the women had to go through at that time because the women, there were not enough of us. Again, we were women one-offs wrestling on male teams. So our state, I'm doing air quotes, we didn't have regionals, we didn't have districts, we didn't have any of that stuff. We just had a round robin tournament that was run during the break of the men's state program. Okay. So it was the second year that they had even allowed like women basically to have our own space on the wrestling mat. And, at states, which was huge for us, to even be able to represent there, but it did win that. So that was good. And then I went into fighting and had my first fight.
How many years total?
Well, I was 19 and I'm 39 now. So
39?
Yeah. So I just had my most recent fight was May of 25.
May of 25?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. This past May?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Not
who did
quite
you
a
fight?
year ago. I fought, was the one that I fought most recently. Tall, blonde, Russian girl.
Russian girl?
Yeah.
She tough?
Yeah, for sure. She's definitely tough. I'm trying to think of her name, but come to me. But anyways, she's definitely tough. She's more of a striker, but it was a litmus test for me. I believe that I should have won that fight, and I didn't. I'm not making up any excuses, but if I were to like continue on a trajectory like towards a title or whatever, I needed to win that fight, but I didn't. And that's okay. I mean, father time gets the best of all of us. It's just like I've just gone past my prime, and that was fine. Like, it was a great fight. Dana's right-hand man, Hunter, he ran out to like shake my hand before I even made it all the way to the back. Like, when I'm still like going through the crowd and like, people are high-fiving you and signing things, like he literally ran out to be like, that was a great fucking fight. Like, that was amazing, and that was rare. Like, I've never even had that happen to me before, so he was like, it was a great fight. But I think I really brought it. Like, I came forward the whole time. I tried to, but the judges just see different things that they value, and they probably just liked the sticking and moving a little bit more, She landed more than me. Things? I just pressured. I mean, I was just like on her, like white on rice. Like, I was on her.
Yeah.
But, she was effective in what she was trying to do too. So.
See, me asking you these things about this, like, I don't know jack shit about fighting. I know, like, just enough to be able to defend myself and other people, but not like on a professional level. So like when I'm asking like, hey, who's the last person you fight, or like, how did that go? How do you feel about it? It's coming from a place of complete, like, not like no knowledge background at all. I don't have time for anything really. So I don't ever like watch a lot of these fights. Although my middle brother is a huge fan of the UFC. He's been watching it since like the first 10 came out or something like that. So he like knows everybody's names. Like, he's seen all these different fights, and all the time he tracks like all these different stats. Like, he's super into it. But I still have an immense amount of respect for it. Like, the fact that you, as a at the time 38, fought somebody at the age of 38 after having 2 children.
Post-knee surgery, too.
Post-knee surgery?
That was the biggest thing for me, was trying to come back after the knee surgery, which was harder than coming back after having kids.
Yeah, so, knee surgery, because it's very tender, man. Like, what did you get done?
It sucked. What happened was I fought December 3rd of 23.
Okay.
I won the fight, like, 2 10-8 rounds, which means like, a 10-8 round, sorry if I'm over-explaining, but a 10-8 round is like, basically bell to bell, you dominated the whole thing.
Okay. See, this is important because somebody who's listening may not have any idea either. I don't.
Yeah, they scored on a 10-point must system. So someone has to get a 10 in the round and the other person has to get a 9 or less. But usually, even like decisive rounds, the person gets a 9.
Okay.
It's rare to get it, to give the other person an 8, and super duper duper rare to see a 7. I mean, that's like, if you see a 7, I mean, it's usually a very gracious judge, and also like you almost murdered that. I mean, you literally almost put them in their grave to get a 10-7. A 10-8 is like sheer dominance across the entire round. So, I think I got hit like one time in that fight, and So
you crushed it in that fight.
I crushed it, but I also crushed myself.
Your knee.
Yeah, it was on her back, and I was just being so aggressive. We were both kind of on the side, and I'm like hitting her, and I wanted to flip her onto her belly and flatten her out. So like I popped my hips into her, and I went to like flatten her out, and I just tore my LCL, which was like the outside ligament.
Lateral collateral ligament.
Yeah, there you go. That one, which isn't the worst injury. So I think I did that in the first round. In like the second round, I was fine. But in the third round, I went to flatten her out to try to get like a choke, and I didn't have an LCL anymore. So it transferred into the next ligament, which ended up being my PCL. And so like the ACL runs in the front and the PCL like kind of runs in the back. So like a PCL tear would be common to get if you were in a car accident and like you hit your knees on the front of the front and you tear it because it gets pushed backwards.
Yeah.
Like, so that's what I tore. So I had 2 ligaments, and I choked her out in the third round. Julia Avila. I do remember her name. That was a good fight.
Julia
Avila. Yeah. That was a good, that honestly was the moment when I met the very best version of myself. And so that's why after, it was debatable whether I was going to try to fight again after tearing 2 ligaments. I really didn't want to even do surgery. And I don't think the surgery was that successful. I mean, it did its job, but I never felt like even really close to my full athletic ability prior to the knee surgery, so it really did take a lot out of me. But
yeah.
I found it just so rewarding to prove to myself that I even could fight again. So that really was the win for me. It really wasn't about like, I would have loved to have won. Sure, I mean, you get half your paycheck when you lose, so that sucks. But
bummer, yeah.
But the bigger win for me was that for the longest time in my career, I was outcome based. I had to win, and that was what my value was based on. And after having my kids and really working on myself and doing some cognitive behavioral therapy and doing some experiences with mushrooms and ketamine, I just had this different concept of what it means to be. And I started to realize it is just not, I'm not defined by an outcome. It is the effort that I put into the journey. That's my value. And that night that I fought Julia Avila was when everything was in line, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. It was all synergistic. And I truly believe that I could have beat anyone on that night. It just happened to be her that was standing across the octagon for me. But anyone. And so I really did get to shake the hand of the woman who is the best competitive version of myself. And then I pushed myself beyond an unrealistic expectation to get back from knee surgery at 38 years old and fight, a top a contender for a belt. And I came up short in a decision, but it was a great fight, and I'm still proud of it. I'm proud of that I was able to even do all the things it takes to get there and all the weight cutting and all that stuff, because I was even heavier after having knee surgery. So, hormonally, I kind of messed myself up. because as soon as I got cleared, I took a fight. And so it's like I had been off the mats for a long time, about a year.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell anybody that I had had the knee surgery. I kept it totally under wraps.
Really?
So no one knew.
When did you have knee surgery?
Right before Christmas of December 2023. So I had fought December 5th, and I had surgery December 22nd.
Okay. In 2023, you had the knee surgery. You had already had knee surgery long before the first time I met you in 2025, in January 2025.
Yeah, I still look at this, a good little scar there. See that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I need to put some oil on my legs.
Yeah. No, it's all good. Your legs are probably less ashy than mine are, honestly. You've had an unbelievable career. I mean, you said you fought, like I said, you fought hundreds of times. You fought a ton of qualified, actual ranked matches. You've competed at the highest level. And then I liked what you said about how it's a lot of it's about the journey and the things that you did along that journey, rather than hey, you're not just a UFC fighter who's done had these accomplishments or these accolades or these victories and stuff. You're also a person who's experienced all of these different things, these highs, these lows. You were competing with yourself to be the best version of yourself. Yes. You're also a mother. Could you say that you have artistic inclinations? You have an interest in the arts? You have a lot of different varied interests other than just fighting. That's just
taking care of chickens.
That's just one part of your life.
And puppies. Man. Right now, so at the animal shelter that I got the chickens from, I am fostering a litter of 8 puppies and the mom. So
8 puppies?
I'm a slight glutton for punishment. I put a little bit too many things on my plate, but they're cute. They're little fluffy butts. They're very cute. Yeah. People ask me sometimes, what is the most, the best moment in your career? And I've already told you about it, and it was that night, not fighting of Jessica Avila, but finding myself.
Yeah.
And my real purpose and value inside of what I can do in the Octagon, because every fight prior to that, I had always fought to win. I'd always fought not to lose. That's a better way to say it. I'd always fought not to lose. And people don't realize that when you fight not to lose, or when you live life not to lose, you are robbing yourself of seeing the best that you can be. Because if you were scared of not winning, you hold yourself back. If you are scared of losing, you hold yourself back.
What do you think would be a better way to view it? Or how do you think a better way to view it?
I still think that the effort part has got to be the focus. You've got to be effort-based, not outcome-based. I think that when you put your effort into something, you just got to do it wholeheartedly to see what you're really made of. Yeah. Because if you don't do that, if you wait until the net is there for every situation, you just got to be prepared to jump. You got to jump a lot of times before the net appears, and sometimes it's not going to appear, and you're going to fall on your face, and you're like, okay, well, how do I make sure, like, hopefully next time that the net is there? But you just got to do it. You just got to go. But the really important caveat to that is to listen to yourself. You got to have a lot of internal dialogue. You got to learn how to be present with yourself right here, right now, in this moment. And how do you stop yourself from being reactionary? How do you stop the intrusive thoughts? The truth is, you don't stop intrusive thoughts, but how do you manage them? Managing them is as good as stopping them. They're going to come, and that's fine. Like, I'll have intrusive thoughts all day long. I just label it, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm done with you now. Like, get out of here.
Yeah.
And I just put them out of my mind, or I remind myself of another situation. Our brains were designed to keep us safe, so we think of a lot of negative things by design, but we just don't live in a world where we have to worry about running away from tigers and bears all day long, so it doesn't really serve quite the same purpose in every situation, usually when we're living like the kind of lives that most of us do. And so we don't need to operate in a place of high stress and alertness. And you remember how I said about connecting with nature is like you're actually connected. Well, it's like we're operating on this short circuit of devices and all the things that our brains have to process now. I mean, I wonder a lot of times what it must have been like to be like a Native American way back before civilization, or to be in a tribe, or something that was like pre anything electronic. And pre even like a horse running a letter across, the state for you to someone. Like, I'm talking about like just back when there was nothing more to worry about than feeding yourself, getting water, and like taking care of your family, and building like a house, or or a home. It's not a house, but I just have to wonder, and I fantasize about this a lot, because I like to think how life must have been so much more fulfilling. I'm not saying easier, but easy's never been my goal. Easy's not fun.
Yeah.
Easy's boring, and you don't really get to learn about yourself. And so I imagine that life was very hard back then, because when your baby is sick, you don't get to just take them to the hospital and make them better, right?
True.
They may die. Yeah. Or they may get, picked off by something, or your husband may go out hunting and not come back. Like, that's just real shit. I'm not trying to over romanticize it, but what I'm trying to say is that I bet that they knew what life really was about, and it was connection to people. I think like you hear the stories of like, the dances and the singing and the you just hear, like, I just bet they were so close-knit and so culturally connected, and, like, there was nothing else to worry about than, on a day-to-day basis, than, like, probably putting your feet in a stream and, like, today the girls are going to get together and we're going to, sew up the hides of the animals, and we're going to make this, and, like, your kids are going to be playing, and, like, they were probably living what I would consider like the life.
I feel like they must have been living in the moment for sure, because like every day, there's no grocery stores, there's no
email,
like you said,
text.
There's no email, there's no text, there's no phones, there's no mail. Like, you're just living every day to like figure out where you're going to get food for your family from, how you're going to make sure that you're reinforcing your shelter, or preparing for the winter, or like you are very locked in the moment. Like that was, I think living in the moment was probably a lot easier to do back then when you were focused on surviving. You didn't have time to worry about all this extraneous stuff like what we do today, these first world problems.
We have so much time now, but yet we make it feel like we don't have any time at all. It's such an oxymoron.
My stresses today mostly are self-induced, because I'm very much like, I see a goal, or I see something I want to pursue, and I'm like, I'm gonna attack this viciously until I get there. I don't care what I have to do. I don't care what walls I need to run through. I don't care how much I have to fight. I'll fight for this until I'm completely unconscious. Like, you know what I mean? And part of that can be self-destructive, because sometimes I forget to get enough sleep or eat enough food or drink enough water or do this, that, and the other stuff, that are important while in the pursuit of that thing, rather than focusing on like what you were saying, the effort to get there is just as important too.
Yeah.
And I think that's super profound what you're saying, because like we oftentimes get really fixated on the end goal or the end state that we have set. And we have these like clearly defined, I'm not going to be happy until X happens or B happens or whatever it is. And, life is short, man.
You miss out on living between all of that.
Living. There's so much more. That's like 1% of your life. The other
and a lot of times that 1%
experience
isn't what you worked so hard for anyways.
Yeah.
That's what's so crazy about it, is that it can either shift or it can just not work out the way you want, or sometimes it does work out the way that you want.
Yeah.
But if you're not enjoying the effort or the ride between all of that, if you're not appreciating that and being in the moment and learning how to slow down when you can, then I just think we miss out on one of the biggest blessings that life has to offer, which is, to be present and to really discover what the purpose is.
Yeah. Which is why I was saying, I feel like people had it really good back before tech, because they were very present. They had to be, because they were surviving.
Yeah.
Nowadays we've got all this extra time because we have air conditioning, we have heat, we have grocery stores, we can drive in our cars to get places faster.
But we feel like we have none. We do so much in a day.
But we feel like we have none. But we also don't have an inability to live in the moment oftentimes too, which I think I am more present when I'm having a conversation with somebody than any other time of day.
Yeah, that's why the podcasts are a blessing.
Yeah.
Can I tell you one other story of when I was fighting for my world title? That's the most, memorable moment for most people out of my career. It was in 2016. I was fighting Holly Holm
Holly Holm.
Yeah.
I remember that name.
And she had won round 1, and I had won round 2 by a 10-8. And she had won round 3.
So you dominated her that
I dominated that round.
Okay.
And she won a 10-9 round 3 and a 10-9 round 4. So she had 1 round up on me going into the 5th round. Granted, we didn't know this because it's not open scoring, but now I knew what the scorecards were because it's post-fight.
Yeah.
But we did assume that I was down on the cards because I only really had 1 dominant round, and most of the other times I didn't take her down on the other one, so she was kind of like popping and moving, sticking.
Yeah.
So I was going into the 5th round, and I just remember thinking, I think that I have to throw all the game plan and everything that we prepared for, all that, right out the window. I'd throw it away, and I have to throw caution away too, and I have to be willing to risk getting knocked out. And it was just like a quick thought. It wasn't all that, words in my head, but it was kind of this feeling of like, this is like the do or die moment.
Yeah, I'm about to throw everything that we out the window, and we're going for the gusto.
Yep, we're going, exactly. And I remember I got her down, and I got the choke in, and she ended up like kind of getting up. So like I'm like wrapped on her neck, but we're like standing now. Like we're not on the ground anymore. And I have 1 hook in, and she tries to launch me over her back. And I was able to just kind of like stay glued to her. So she ended up flipping too. And then we end up on the ground, and I still have the chokehold in, and she kind of like punches at the air, and she's unconscious. And so they like pull me off of her.
She was unconscious.
She's unconscious.
But she was like flailing, still unconscious.
Yeah. Yeah. She kind of like, as you go into like a dream state.
Not flailing, but she was still like attempting to strike while she was like fading out. Yeah.
Yeah. Because in her, I'm sure she went in kind of this dream state. You do that right before you lose consciousness. You're kind of like in this weird, like a dream.
Yeah, I've had that happen. I've been rendered unconscious before.
So you kind of know there's like this weird weird zone where you're like in a mixture between what's really happening and what's clearly not. So she probably, was like, had escaped the choke in her mind because she was fixated on, right? She was trying to get out. So
she's
she was
like, I must be free. Let's get her now. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she went out. She went unconscious, and then I was the new world champion, and that was everything I had ever worked for. And I had convinced myself that if I won that belt, that on the other side of that was happiness.
I swear to God, editing team, you better make a clip out of that goddamn piece right there. That's some gold. Make a clip out of it. I want to see her holding the belt up, all that stuff, dude, in that clip. That's like a gold nugget. That's a gold nugget right there.
But I was wrong.
But you were wrong.
I was so
wrong. Okay, include that piece too.
I convinced myself that happiness was on the other side of that belt. And when I got there, it was actually the worst time in my life.
Like post-winning.
Right. It was great for about 2 weeks. You know, you're riding this high. I think I barely slept. I mean, it was great. Yeah, I just was like high on life. It was phenomenal. It was great.
What year was that?
2016.
2016.
Yeah.
Man.
As all that wore off, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm still miserable. I am not happy, not even one tiny bit more than I was before. As a matter of fact, now I see behind the curtain that this doesn't fix anything. And then I was just in a really scary place for a little while there. Like,
really?
I really was like, I took another fight, and I lost my belt, and that got even worse because I lost it to Amanda Nunes. Okay. And the only way that I had ever fixed this feeling of like, not necessarily like wanting to continue on with my life was to take another fight, because if you won, then you were a winner, and it was like, it would like fix, you know, it was kind of like this boost. It was like,
yeah,
I don't know.
That's a tough place to be, because it's like, that's like what everybody's shooting for, to be a winner, be a champion.
Totally. And it was just nothing that I had ever, it fixed nothing, because it just brought its own slew of problems, because now the illusion had been disillusioned.
Yeah.
The illusion that I would be happy, I was like, I'm not happy. So if this doesn't make me happy, then will I ever be happy? When you get to that place, you get kind of in a dark spot. And I remember fighting in New York against Raquel Pennington, and I don't remember the fight or fight week or really the people that were around me. Now, I think, self-diagnosis, that I had become quite a master at disassociation.
Okay.
So that was my safety mechanism. You know, when things were toxic at home as a kid, and my parents were fighting, and my dad still had quite a temper with me, you know.
Yeah.
He didn't like touch me, but like, you know, he would absolutely, like, he was scary. He was so scary. He would still yell, and like, you know, and I would just go somewhere else. Like, I had this really good skill set, which worked well for me. I would just be somewhere else.
In your mind.
In my mind. And like my body, I would kind of like relax my eyes. I knew how to like unfocus them, so like things would become blurry.
Yeah.
And then I would just like disassociate, and I would just be other places, and
out of body
sort
experience,
of an out of body
almost,
experience. Yeah. It's a trip to think about now going back. But you know, I think when kids have to be somewhere that they don't want to be, then they can just develop ways to try to cope with being in a situation that you're stuck in, you don't want to be in.
Yeah.
And so it set me up perfectly for entering the toxic relationship that I was in for about 9 years leading up and through the title fight, through my loss of the title fight. And then we separated, but he was still there for my final fight, and that was a disaster.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just remember after I lost that final fight, I retired that night, not because I had even really thought it through. It's just that I was so broken and exhausted of having to like go through this same process that was just like not fixing anything anymore. Not only was I not winning, like I'd lost for the first time in my life 2 fights in a row, but I already knew that if I got back to a title, it wouldn't fix anything. I couldn't even live on this, you know, this illusion anymore. So then I just remember thinking, like, is this what I want? Like, is my life even worth living anymore? It was just a very dark place for a little bit there. And, you know, my ex was still like hounding me, like claws in, like I still hadn't escaped the relationship, even though I had separated. You know, I was like, you know, we're not together, but like it wasn't that way, even though we weren't. Like there was a constant fixation the entire week of my fight that was all about getting us back together. And so I felt like there was no escape unless I left the sport. And that was like the decision, because I knew that it wasn't that I wanted to take my own life or that I wanted to die. It was that I didn't want to live like that anymore.
Yeah.
And so
you're like, I got to find a way to change this.
I got to find a way. And I was scared of this because I just only knew how to be Miesha Tate the fighter. I didn't know how to be anything else. I had no other value in myself in any other way. I mean, I did a lot of other things, but I didn't have value in any of those things. It was just kind of like, yeah, that's cool. It's cherry on top. But like, I'm a fighter. That's who I am.
What year was that?
That was still 2016.
2016 still?
Yeah, same year.
Yeah. Because, like, since I've known you...
Maybe 2017.
I've only known you since 2025. Like, a year.
Yeah, no, it was...
Like, literally a year is how long I've known you. But, like, you seem to be such a dynamic personality since I've known you. Because I think you've come to, like, embrace this whole new side of you as a person. like very successfully so. And like now you're able to like be like, I've got so many different interests, I've got so many different passions, I've got so many different things that I'm interested in doing. And you definitely seem to have gotten out of whatever that was, like so far beyond it now that it's like, I don't think you'll ever end up in that place again.
I don't think so either. No, and I'm very grateful. And for me, it was all about connection. It was connection with family, friends, and God. Because I always believed in God, but I had gotten quite far from having a relationship with God. Yeah. And I think in my darkest moment that he's the only one that could have been there. I know that. He's the only one that could have been there in that moment for me. And it was. Literally, my life was hanging by a prayer.
Yeah.
And when you're alone and you feel disconnected, and in my relationship, I had been very disconnected. It was very much a isolating type of relationship, I wasn't talking to my mother. I didn't have a relationship with her. I wasn't really talking to my dad either, my siblings. Like there was no, they did not like each other. My ex and my mom especially really butted heads. And so I felt so lost in so many ways. And I remember that one moment where I was like, should I do this? Like, should I take my own life? And, God gave me the answer. It was, it was a definite no. It was just that you've got to change. You got to stop doing what you're doing. Like, you're doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, right? Isn't that the definition of insanity? Yeah. So I was like, good point.
Pain's a good motivator, man.
It is. It's a great motivator.
Pain will help people make different decisions. They're like, I don't want to feel that anymore. Let me do anything else.
That's why I'm not a fan of antidepressants.
Yeah, me too.
I'm not a fan because I think you need to feel the hurt. I'm not saying that they have zero place or, that they can never be helpful. I'm just saying I think they're overused, and I think
overprescribed.
There's a purpose with pain.
Yeah.
And you will find it, but you got to kind of sometimes really trek through some places, and you got to be willing to do a little bit of lifting. You got to be willing to get a little uncomfortable and ask yourself questions and find answers and keep digging and searching. But it's there, and with those answers comes the healing.
Yeah.
And then you become a better, more well-adjusted, healthier person, or at least I like to think that I've gotten to a much better place. I sure feel like I have.
Yeah, I think you definitely have, for sure, based on the way that you described where you were at before and like kind of how I know you as a person today. I think that you've made big strides, and like you said, that journey of finding yourself, and discovering who you really are, and like experiencing these levels of pain that lead you to better places. I think you've definitely gone through a lot of these transition periods to get to where you're at now. And if you hadn't gone through those things, you wouldn't be the same person you are today. You know what I mean? And same thing for me. Like a lot of the experiences I've had that may have been painful in nature had an impact on me, and I changed behaviors or patterns of behavior because I'm like, I don't want to feel that way anymore. Yeah. And now I think I'm in a better place because of that. And I think a lot of people.
That's growth. That's why the podcast is called Vote for Growth, because it's really, for me, that's what it's all about. It's like, it is, we were built to grow, not just change, because change is passive. Like change will happen to you no matter what. Yeah. You got to choose if you want to grow or if you just want to let life happen to you.
Yeah, you got to make a conscious decision, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, Miesha, I'm super grateful that we were able to sit down today and do this.
Same.
I was looking forward to this a lot. Like getting to see under the hood, so to speak, of what kind of drives you forward and some of the thought processes that you've had throughout your career and stuff like that. And this has been super insightful for me, especially somebody that knows literally next to nothing about the sport, but also someone who has a deep appreciation for the level of commitment and tenacity that's required to become successful in it. So I think your story's, very interesting. And I guarantee there's going to be some young lady out there who's pretty aggressive, that likes to do aggressive stuff and likes to get after it, that's going to hear some of the things that you had to say and might be pretty inspiring for them and probably potentially have an impact on the direction of their life. You know what I mean? I think that's one of the cool parts about this is little things here and there you may not think are that pivotal for you because you just think about it all the time, but it might not occur to somebody else naturally.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like that for me, that moment with Gina Carano, was very small and fleeting, but it was just everything.
Yeah.
So I hope so. That's why I do this. In big part, obviously I love sitting and just having a conversation as well. But, my motive, the thing that really fills my cup is the hope and desire that this will benefit someone and that they can figure it out a little bit earlier. Because we all have to go through some shit. Like, I'm not trying to say, like, if you just listen to me or you or anybody else that you're just, life's going to be easy. Like, no, you're supposed to go through some shit. Like, it's supposed to be a bit hard. But can you figure it out earlier? Can you find the balance in everything? Can you find the things that actually equate to fulfillment? And it wouldn't even be like happiness. I used to think it was happiness. I used to chase happiness. But happiness is like a small part of our daily feelings. Like you and I right now, like I wouldn't describe this as happiness, right? It's like we're enjoying the moment. Like we're focused and it's like it's fulfilling. Yeah. But this is not like, yay, like we're joy or like you just had your first kid. Like it's not like that. It's just like, but it's fulfillment. And that's what I think we're chasing. I think happiness is, it's sold to us like that's how we're supposed to be all the time. Look at this Instagram life. It's perfect and happy. Yeah. It's just not, humans are not meant to be happy all the time. Or we probably couldn't even appreciate it if we were happy all the time. Then it would just be like normal. So it's like we're meant to be fulfilled. And that's why I do what I'm doing is like it fills my cup. It's very selfish of me.
It's very selfish. Well, I mean, I think you're going to have an impact on people, whether you're having an impact on them or not. And I think that's part of the benefit of this stuff is not only is it going to like be an ancillary impact that you're going to have you're going to influence somebody that, or maybe you say something that somebody needed to hear, but it's also good for you. It's good for me talking to people. It's like, it benefits me being able to like hear other people's stories and just like kind of like hear their perspectives on like how they view life and their and stuff like that. Like that stuff is valuable for me.
Yeah, Kagan, you're a good therapist. Thank you.
I don't know if I'm a good therapist.
How much do I owe you?
I don't know. I either way, like, look, dude, I appreciate your time again. Keep crushing it out there. I hope we'll have to do another one. Honestly,
easy.
I'd be down to do it again. There's so many other things we could definitely talk about.
And for mine too, I'd love it. I didn't want to ask you this week because I know you're slammed. But if you are ever out here and you have some time,
we will 100% schedule another one for that too.
Okay, perfect.
We'll be able to go on another deep dive.
Let's go.
All right.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.